hear it, pick it up. You got it? Okay, so you just hit stop now. That's workshop.
Excuse me.
I want to say it initially, if they, we've got one or two speaker cards. If there's anybody else that wants to speak, just fill out a speaker card. That way we can call from it. And we've got a record. Thank you.
This workshop is intended to allow discussion of Section 6.18 of the Wakulla County Land Development Code pertaining to signs. At this point in time, it was discussed that the Chamber of Commerce is, with the leadership of Mr. John Schuff, they want to make a presentation to the board as to the positives and negatives to the sign ordinance as they see it. And therefore, at this point in time, Mr. Schuff, the floor is yours. And also, everybody remember that no decisions are made here whatsoever, so don't ask for anybody's opinion.
I'd like to thank you all for allowing the Chamber to give you some input on our existing sign ordinance. The first item I'd like to go over with you is just a concept that occurred as we were reading through a couple other sign ordinances besides our own, and thinking about the demographics of Crawfordville and how different they are from the rest of Wakulla County, and how this seemed like to us a good opportunity as we were going through our sign ordinance to differentiate between what we do in Crawfordville and what we do in the rest of the county. I think there's might be hindered a little bit by what you can do with your sign ordinance when you try to, evaluate, well, I don't want to put those people that live out 10 miles from anywhere, through those, something that's not, more than what they need. So anyway, so we looked at it in that vein, and just kind of read that into it all the way through tonight, and we'll be more than happy when we get, if you guys approve of where we're headed with this, to work with your staff on that, and I'll probably say that again later. But anyway, I pretty much just started talking and went through most of what I had on my first page.
That was a quick workshop.
There's 5 pages. And I'll try to get a little closer on that.
25 more minutes.
All right. I guess the item number 2 that we had dealt with definitions. There are a few definitions that we found that were lacking, that we thought would be helpful to include, and I think the staff pretty much agrees with us on most of the stuff we're going to present to you tonight. We may differ a little bit on how to get some of it, but I think it seems like we've discussed all this stuff with the staff, and they seem to be pretty much in support of what we're talking about. To add a few words to the definitions. Murals is one item, parcels of land is another one, sign face definition is another. An example of parcel that I'd like to point out is we have Centennial Bank, one of our larger businesses in town. Our regulations seem to be pointed towards, and our signs pointed towards parcels of land, but they happen to sit on 7 parcels of land. So it just, it'd be good to kind of clean that, stuff like that up. Then item number 3 that I have, that actually, I guess you guys have a copy of the sign ordinance that you can look at. On page 5, review times. As each item I go through, I'll hit the page and try to hit this section number 2. Review times. We would like to see that cut from 30 days to 14 days, and the staff feels like that they can accommodate that. I think it just gives us a little bit more business-friendly atmosphere to the process. And a little bit more accommodating to the business community.
Hey, John, I want to ask just for clarification.
Sure.
Whenever you're talking about review times, is that up front whenever the initial application gets a review?
Once they have everything turned in.
Okay.
Now, if we string along and give one thing one day and something else a week later, well, that 14 days shouldn't kick in until you guys have the full packet.
Okay.
Did you take my pen? No. You want a pen?
The next item I'd like to hit on is on page 5. And I'd like to give you all this.
whole drawer full of pens, and they're all gone.
And then I can't find them now.
That's Nicole from the Wakulla News, by the way. Raise your hand. I'll introduce her.
She can dance.
Yes. She jumped right into Wakulla County Court.
That's right.
I'll have to hear about this story under discussion items by commissioners. It's on TV later, but go ahead.
Go ahead, John. We're sorry.
All right, you ready? What I just passed out is the section from the City of Tallahassee sign ordinance that pertains to engineering. And I'm not saying we need to be like the City of Tallahassee, but I am saying it's a city that's close by, and it is a political district in the state of Florida, and we have similar building codes. I mean, everybody can change. Building official has quite a bit of discretionary power, but basically we work off the same basic building code. 4 items that section 732, signs required to be certified by a registered engineer. They have four classes here of items. All roof signs, which we fully agree with. Projecting signs that are over 24 square feet in area. Those are signs that project past the corner of a building, just kind of hang out there in the air. Very reasonable that they would be engineered. Off-site signs or ground signs over 100 square feet in area, whether they're on-premise or off-premise, and all signs of unusual structural features. Our engineering requirements for sign under section C1B requires engineering for any sign over 32 square feet, which is basically a sheet of plywood.
Page 5 you're looking at still?
Page 5 is where our engineering requirements are, which basically it says any sign over 32 square feet, the way I read it.
Is this the way it reads now, or the way you would like for it to read?
What I passed out, that's the City of Tallahassee's ordinance, and this is a comparison to our ordinance. I just felt like 32 square feet was a little draconian, and I wanted to get something else that was close by that was and another thing to consider too is that, you know, one of the reasons to having engineered signs is in a major storm or something like that, when it gets, you know, if things start blowing around, you're concerned about, you know, that sign becoming a projectile. And that's a concern in Tallahassee. It's even more dense up there than it is down here. But we are a little closer to the coast, and maybe we ought to have some accommodation for that. But 32, 3 times stricter seems a little tough to me. But anyway, it would be good if you guys could, if y'all would consider that and work with our building official and our building inspection department to review those engineering requirements. And unless a sign has really unusual features, our plan reviewers and inspectors, most of them have been in the construction trades most of their lives. They've got enough experience and enough good common sense to understand what a good attachment or a proper foundation is. Please note that in the City of Tallahassee's list of items that require engineering, no wall signs are mentioned. If we have a wall sign that's attached to the side of a building that's over 32 square feet, you have to get an engineer to show the attachments on that wall sign. And I just think that's, a building official ought to be able to tell what's, a good proper attachment to a certain extent. And if it's an unusual structure that's hard to discern what, but then yes, it needs to be engineered. But again, the wall sign part and the 32 square foot engineering seems excessive to us. When we do things like that, we don't present a welcoming presence to new businesses as we create unnecessary red tape and regulation that hamper their desire to join our community. All right, then the next one is item number 5, setbacks. Setbacks are a little bit...
What page, John?
Pardon me?
What page are you on now?
I'm sorry, that's section C4 on page 7. We're requiring a 15-foot setback on signs. And I don't know if I'm going through these too fast. You want me to stop and let's talk about each one, or...
No.
Just keep us on the page number you're on.
Okay, all right. Well, I have trouble keeping myself on my list, so... All right, I'll try to do better. But on page 7, requires a 15-foot setback from the front and side corner boundary lines. This setback, if I understand the various requirements, and there's buffer requirements, there's the landscape stuff. There's, you know, we have the setback stuff. Parking lots have to be 5 feet back, I believe, from the property line before you begin a parking lot. But if I'm looking at most of that, and I think I've got it figured out, and possibly not, but that we got to start our signs 10 feet inside of our parking lots. And I just, you know, I personally think we ought to be able to put our signs, you know, up there within, you know, as long as we stay off the DOT right away, that ought to be okay. Now, that, you know, and I've got some other stuff that deals with the how a freestanding road sign looks a little bit later in the presentation, but I just don't think that we ought to be pushing our signs back. We're going to have a sign, you know, what we're trying to do. We're trying to advertise. And again, that would be something that we would have a certain size sign for in the outlying part of the county. And as we move into our town area, we'd have a smaller, more discreet sign. Then item number 6 on page 8D, placement of signs. And this basically deals with, you can either have a freestanding sign on your property or you can have a wall sign on your property, but you can't have both, is what our code says. Those section D1D and D2C break it down like that, either or, but not both.
Page 8 you're on now?
Yes, on page 8. 8D, 1D, and 2C.
So you recommended a change it?
My recommendation would be that we offer a certain square footage of area, you know, and let the businesses use that amount of area as they wish. And again, more area in the county and less area in the our town area. And that kind of leads into item number 7, which is also on page 8, D3. We've got wall signs, and I mean all of it ties together, and we've restricted them to 20% of the face of a building. If we allowed more area for wall signs, we might cut down on the area of freestanding signs. If you gave them, you know, a desirable option for wall signs, then that might limit some of the signs that you get on the road just by a natural process. Wall signs are cheaper to build and put up than a freestanding sign. And if you allow more area, maybe they'll get the idea that, you know, we can get just the impact if we put it on the wall of our building. Then item number 8 on page 11, item E, that kind of jumping into off-premise signs, billboards. We'd like to suggest that we not have any more of these signs in the our town area, and we may be just about full up by, you know, the separation by linear feet and stuff like that, but to not allow any more of them in the our town area. I would also suggest that we practice enforcing our codes on off-premise billboard signs as opposed to just waiting for a complaint to come in. We have a lot of billboard signs in the county that don't project a good image to the county, and you know, in our estimation. And if they're going to be there, they ought to be well maintained. And that gets me into item E11, which is off-premise sign maintenance. We currently require a $16 annual renewal fee for annual inspections and repainting every 2 years on a sign, including the structure. And again, this is just for off-premise billboard signs. Paints are pretty good nowadays. 2 years is is pretty tough. And to go and inspect a sign every year and charge $16, well, we're going in the hole doing that. I think we ought to stretch out that painting requirement to 4 or 5 years, and or visibly faded. Have your inspection every 3 years. You can maintain the annual maintenance fee. That's a pretty small number, but you know, save a few dollars there when you're trying to, you know, take care of maintenance and look out for stuff. Then item number 9, non-conforming signs. It's on H3, and I failed to write the page number down on that one.
It's on page 3.
H3 is
It's
the
on page
section
12,
number.
page
It's
12.
probably,
Gotcha.
it's probably on
Page 12.
12? Okay, thank you. And just something something to consider there. And this has to do with the 50% rule for sign replacement. Anything happens to your sign that requires more than 50% damage, then you got to come into compliance. And you know, and it's a fine line there, but that may be understandable in a major storm when things get torn apart, but you know, say somebody gets their sign vandalized or there's an automobile accident, you know, you may not have the thing insured. It just seems a little tough to me to if somebody completely beyond somebody's control gets their sign damaged and they've got to go spend $3,000, $4,000 or whatever the sign costs to replace it. Could be $500, but any amount. Just to consider some other way to look at that portion of the ordinance. And item number 10 is a item that I heard from Tourist Development Council. And that is to exempt organizations, and I'm not quite sure how to word this. I'm sure Heather could come up with something, that organizations like TDC or organizations that are wholly funded by tax dollars are exempt from permit fees. And they're basically out here working for for putting up a sign.
I don't think we can do that, though, right? The building
Can't do
department
that.
has to be funded. They have to support.
That's right.
Well,
we can't waive that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, wish we could.
I mean, we could pay it from some other source,
Yeah.
but then we're just moving it around.
Yeah.
Well,
We can adjust the fee,
That's-
though.
that's a-
We may not
that's a
be able to
reasonable
waive it,
point.
But can we not
We,
adjust?
no, we can't, you can't
build
mess,
fees.
you can't manipulate the fees.
Who sets them?
We have to set them by math. It's all based upon math.
I keep hearing that, but.
ew.
Well, it's true, it is.
Well,
It is.
we modified them recently, so we set
Modified
them,
'em,
but
that's right.
they had to apply to
They got, that's
everybody.
right, that's right.
You can't make it cheaper for
You can't make it cheaper because we wanna make it cheaper. We wish we could, but we can't. We gotta base it on math.
Now, we could lower that fee for everybody.
That's right.
But you just can't.
We just went through a lowering, but we can lower them again, but you'd have to do it across the board.
Right.
You're not able to just select one person, so, from what I understand.
The next item is on page 13, election and free expression signs. We typically, as most of y'all know, the signs that are used during elections are basically 3 feet by 4 feet, 12 square feet. Some of them are 4 by 4. All mine were smaller than that. I tried to save money.
I have a few 4x4s.
But anyway, what our sign ordinance restricts us to is 4.5 square feet, which is basically a 2 by 2, add an inch or two to it. And you know, you just about as soon ought to just say you can't have, because nobody's going to see those signs when you're riding down the highway at 45 or 55 miles an hour. But you might want to consider going back to 12 or 16 square feet. Well, I knew somebody said, if I should have figured it was going to be you.
That's great. That would make it
Good idea
smaller.
to me, too.
But it's just another item to consider. And now, in trying to not, get too far into the 2-foot deep weeds, I've left out quite a few items, just small adjustments that have to do with this concept of kind of separating our sign ordinance from the our town area and with the rest of the unincorporated county. And if you guys, agree with, most of what we've said here tonight and want to see this go forward, we'll be happy to work with your staff on it, and that's it.
Well, I've got
Randy,
one-
have you ever had a workshop that got done 40 minutes early?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, John, I want to ask you something that
Sure.
that I think would be real helpful for the commission. You and I are on the Restore Act committee,
Mhm.
and I remember what you did with taking the draft and the way you went for each thing, and you said this is what it says, and you went up there with your suggestion.
Mhm.
Is there any way that you could do the same thing with this and possibly email it to all 5 commissioners and the county administrator? I mean, pretty much take everything that you've said during the workshop and just
I could email you guys my notes from what I said here. I certainly could do that.
it'd
And,
be helpful.
And, okay.
You know, just a reference, and then to further review it on our own time.
Okay, and I mean, I've just got a bunch of little scribbly notes all over our sign ordinance for various things. I didn't really want to get too far into it because I didn't know if you guys were going to want to try and separate, you know, the sign ordinance and make that separation with Crawfordville now. But you know, we've been talking about putting a committee together with the planning and zoning, you know, to try and go through and work on some our town stuff. And I just thought, well, you know, let's start with this one, and see how that goes. And if we like it, then we can go further.
John, how do you figure your out of town is going to be different from your in town? How do you?
Well, basically, I mean, you know, if somebody's got a little, you know, a little store that's outside of the our town area, it's generally going to be in a, you know, much more rural setting. If the sign, I mean, I'm not saying we need to have, you know, lax standards, but we don't need to be, you know, tougher than our surrounding neighbors either. But if, you know, we just need to work out that fine point there, and I don't have that worked out. I didn't know if you guys were going to, how well we were going to receive this, and I don't mind working on it some more if we, you know, say, well, let's go to the next level with it. But, you know, if somebody lives out in a rural area like that, to answer your question, if you're worried about, you know, wind-blown debris, well, and you're worried about that blowing into somebody else's place, well, there's not a whole lot of stuff out there. So it doesn't, you know, and from that perspective, it doesn't need to be as tough as it needs to be in the our town area.
I have no problem with that. It's just, I want to make sure we don't restrict that person from being able to use signs and so forth.
Oh, I think the people out in the outlying areas of the county ought to be able to do just about anything they want to do.
Well, I would say basically follow the same guidelines that you do here in town. Now, as you say, what you're thinking is that they may not have to be so severe because they're not so close to whatever. But, you know, that doesn't bother me. I was just thinking you were having a different idea about what should be outside of town and in town.
Nobody's going to put a billboard in Smith Creek anyway, I don't.
Yeah.
Now,
No?
a couple of things you mentioned, and David mentioned it, like the 15-foot setback, that probably applies to the site triangle for when you're trying to pull out on the road. Of course, if the sign's elevated, it's different.
That's, you know, that's kind of separate, but that is a consideration, is to make sure you maintain that triangle.
That was the reason you always push signs back as far as you can for that reason.
But if you've already got, you know, 100 feet right of way or so, and you're not close to an intersection, and you're outside of that triangle, then you're not obstructing
Let me give you a good
Well,
view,
example.
but also
or
that
being
goes to
unsafe.
Uniformity, though. You want to make sure that you have, the reason you set a setback is for uniformity. So when you're riding down the road, you don't have a sign doing that right there. It also lines up from a uniform standpoint.
Let me give you another good example, is the Walgreens. When, you know, if you come out of the Walgreens onto the street, Aaron Road, Ray Bowles had a fence there. They had to get him to pull it back 15 feet, and it's still hard to see. If Ray had a sign right there on that corner, I'm not saying what you're saying can't be worked out, because it's different if it's elevated, of course. But I think that was the rationale.
Yeah, in all intersections, that should be, you know, every ordinance that I looked through, you know, had those site triangles, you know, well laid out, and for a very good reason.
I think some of these I'm fine with them. Louis, what did you got any thoughts on what John's saying?
We discussed these with John and the other chamber members, and we're pretty good with most of these things. A lot of them is just a matter of providing clarification in our code.
I do have one citizen to speak. I didn't know if you've got any more presentation, John. I'll let this.
No, that's it, other than answer questions, or y'all just tell us what you want us to do.
Is something you need board action on? Or I noticed, like on the consent agenda tonight, there's already one revision to it about the grandfathering that you kind of did on your own, I guess. Do you need board direction on to take what John is suggesting and run with it, or? No?
Yes, I think so. I think we would want some board direction on where to go with this.
That's another reason I had asked if John could possibly email your notes and things. That way we could further look at it as a commission and decide, you know, exactly what parts of it we want to adopt.
Ralph, if I remember right, you had brought this issue up would you mind looking at it, and maybe you could bring it back as an agenda item if it's something you think's worthwhile doing?
I mean, I'd be glad to. I got a couple other things I'd like to maybe clarify, like Wakulla Station, the Kangaroo. Is that a wall sign or is that a roof sign? You know, I mean, it's really hard to tell according to our ordinance. I mean, I would call it a wall sign, but you know, I mean, it's just a structure. Where our ordinance says the sign can exceed no more than 20% of the wall, but I mean, if that's a wall sign, that's taking the whole area basically. And there's several of them. And Wakulla Pregnancy Center, we've got a sign that says a wall sign can be no more than 20 square feet. That's a sheet of plywood basically, you know. So several examples in here. There's a church in my district, Wakulla Station, and the sign cannot exceed 4.5 square feet on a residential property. So I mean, all these signs would be out of compliance with our package. I mean, with our current ordinance. So I'd be glad to help. Maybe we should
Like
take
the New Light Church Road sign that got blown down.
Yeah.
They're actually here to, if I'm gonna let Chris and then I'll let you speak on the New Light, man. If there's no more discussion at this moment, I'll let Chris Russell come up and speak.
Hey, thanks, guys. So I just got a couple quick questions or comments. So the property signs I may have on my property are very restricting, in my opinion. I think it's 4.5 feet. I think, honestly, I should be able to basically have about any sign I want on there outside of being ridiculous, like a billboard. I definitely see the factor of being windblown and whatnot. But, for example, I see Jansen over here. So if I wanted to put a sign up for chat, they were having some fundraiser on my property, you know, 4x4 sign that gets good access there on Cadre Posey, then I can't do that. So I really think we shouldn't be limiting on that. I live in a neighborhood. We have a HOA. They're going to limit what I can do there. I just think you're stepping off. And then sitting here listening.
Are you talking about temporary signs? Or
Yeah, temporary signs.
So you're not saying it should be okay for you to put an advertisement for Meyer Jeans on your property?
Absolutely
permanently?
not.
Okay.
That would be a commercial entity. You're absolutely right, yes. But we were sitting here listening, and it seems like we're getting one set of rules for part of the county and one set of the other as well. So I don't know how you're going to enforce that and tighten it up. And then the last thing is snipe signs. I'm not overly zealous for snipe signs, but once again, if I want to go out to a pine tree on my property on the corner where it can be seen that I'm advertising something for a benefit going on, I just don't think you should be coming saying what I can have on my property there. That's my opinion. I think you should look at it. Political signs, we need to have the big signs like we had last time. There's no sense that you can't have a sign that you want, a 4x4 up there. It's a temporary sign. It'll be gone after the election. So I would hope when you go back, Commissioner Thomas, if you're the one that's bringing it back or whatnot, y'all would look at that, see some other options. I don't know what the process forward is here, but it seems like we're getting a little infringing there on our rights at our house. Thanks.
The next citizen that, however was you wanting to say, well...
No, I want to listen to the citizen.
Yes, sir. The next citizens that I have two that wants to come up and speak at the same time. It's Man Roberts and Kenneth Gunn. This is about the New Light Church Road.
Yeah, this is about the New Light Church sign.
Man, you do know the item later on the consent agenda is going to resolve their issue, right?
Yes, that's...
Well, see, I was a little confused
You don't
about
know.
that. I didn't know whether we was going to do it now or do it later.
Yeah,
Should we
it's
speak now
gonna
or
be
should
at
we
the
speak
board- well,
later?
Yeah, you can talk, but it
Yeah,
comes up.
but the issue, it's under the consent agenda, by the way, would take care of your sign, and in fact, I asked Louis about this some time ago, he went ahead and changed the rule. It makes historical signs able to be rebuilt just like they were.
Okay.
Well, and that's just request to advertise. It would
Right.
come back for a public hearing.
Right.
Yeah. Should we wait till then to talk about it, or should we do it now, or what? I'm a little confused about it.
It's
You
on
can
our
do both.
consent agenda,
Yeah.
so unless someone has a
Unless
problem with
someone
it...
pulls it.
Talk whenever you want.
But it's already done.
It's already done.
No.
Well,
I
I
would
would
go ahead and talk.
It's not done.
Go ahead
and let him talk, guys.
Yeah, go ahead, yes, sir.
Yeah, let me just say something first. It's on the consent agenda.
Yes.
And if the board leaves it on the consent agenda, when they approve the consent agenda, it will be done.
Okay.
If the board chooses to pull it off the consent agenda, then you will have an opportunity to speak at that time to it.
Okay, I guess we just, better if we just wait for them.
Well,
Whatever you think.
Yeah, you're here. Say your
Okay.
Go ahead and say your piece.
Well, okay.
Say it twice, man, is what they're trying to say.
Well, okay, all right. Well, it's kind of confusing to me, after reading through some of this stuff and then going back through, and then when coming here and I wasn't sure about the consent and all the other stuff that y'all talking about. But, what we're trying to do, I mean, just reading through this thing, it's really, you almost have to be a professor to read through some of the sign ordinance stuff. I don't understand it. I'm just trying to do the best we can. And as a member of New Light Church, Pastor Gunn and the board asked me to try to help out with this issue. So, we're up under the consent, whatever, to do this historic sign. Now, the sign that was up there has been up there for better part of 50 years now. So, and it's already, it got, a tree hit it and it got tore down. We don't know the exact square footage, but we know it's the sign that we're proposing, or the one that we already have up, and Ralph's got a picture of it, it's about 6 by 10, about 40 square feet. And the sign that we had up there wasn't quite as wide, but it was a lot taller. So, and the sign's already been demolished, so we don't know about those kind of issues. What we need to do there. But we're proposing for a 40 square foot sign, and I've kind of read through some of this other stuff, and it's confusing enough as it is. So, and we know that y'all going to bring it up, and I don't know if now is the best time to talk about this or whatever. So, Mr. Gunn, you want to say anything?
So if we pass that tonight on the consent, and it's
That will
not
move the process forward to resolve those
advertised,
issues.
and then
Okay.
come back for a
Advertise,
final
and then-
vote.
Okay, and then we can come back then and talk about it or whatever.
Yes.
I guess the question is as long as that change will satisfy your problem, and it sounds like as long as you're not exceeding the size of the original sign, then that would fix that problem.
Yes.
Man, I remember when this first happened, I called Louis that day, I think. I said, Louis, guess what just happened? New Light Church Road sign that's been there since I was in high school, just got hit by a tree.
There you go.
And how are you going to handle this? And I said, I want to see this. And I guess his way to handle it is to change the rule, which I commend him for doing that.
Well,
I
that's
would be
good.
so creative.
Louis told me today this meeting was for that sign.
Well, that was my understanding too. So whatever it takes to get it done. Well, anyway, we appreciate the board and you guys listening to us, and whatever y'all can do to help us, and we appreciate it. Pastor Gunn, you want to say?
Yeah. Gentlemen, I've never been here before, never asked a favor. I've been in New Light Church now right at 55 years. Now you may wonder, how'd you do it? Well, I don't know how they did it, but I'm still there. And that sign, I put it there when I went there about 50 years ago. And all I'm asking you fellas to help me with, to do, is I don't want to put I got a big sign out there in front of the church, and I want another one like it down on the road, because there's so many people going from Crawfordville to Tallahassee back and forth, and if I don't have big letters on it, it's sitting there in vain. A little 4x4 is not going to do it. And we've already got a light up there. There's already electricity there that was over the old one, but it crushed the sign and demolished it. And I don't want to put some kind of little old scrubby something out there. I want to put another one like the one I got.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Strickland, issued the permit. Well, we just run into a standstill to start with. That's all you can do. And so I'm appealing to y'all tonight, because I feel like that you got the last say-so, and I sure would appreciate it very much if y'all would let me put a sign back out there on that road exactly like the one I've got in front of the church. And it will be lit up now. It'll have lights in it. And but it's good advertisement for people going to Crawfordville to I see y'all got a big sign out there that said, Wakulla County loves Jesus. You can't beat that. And so, if y'all will help me get this sign out there, I'll pray for every one of you that the good Lord bless you.
We need that.
Because in the day we live in now, you need it. We all do.
Yes, sir.
And because when it comes down from way upstairs up yonder somewhere, we're going to all need it. So if you can help me, I appreciate it.
We can't vote to ignore the law. All we can do is vote to change the rule, which I think you'll see that's what we're going to do. But we can't just come tonight and say, let these guys slide. So we really don't have the last say as far as that goes. I think what you're wanting will get accomplished, but it's going to take a little while.
We have to go through the process.
We got to go through the process.
All right.
It's not a process that's going to be by next week, but it'll be in the works soon.
Sir?
It's not a process that'll be completed by next week, but it'll be in the works soon.
Yes,
It'll
sir.
apply to every historical sign, not just yours.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand the rules and regulations and everything, but just talking to Miss Strickland, it looked like I'm just out.
No, so
I
you,
want a 4x4, please.
you will get your sign. Just
Yes,
take
sir.
that to the bank.
All right.
You will get your sign. Just give us a day or two to get it together, but you will get your sign.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
And come back and see us in 50 more years.
Well, I made it to 82. Oh, good Lord. Somebody said, how you do that? I said, well, they all get mad at me in there at one time. We go out in the parking lot and pray and cry and beg each other's forgiveness, and I stay there. Then the next year, I get mad at all of them, and I tell them I'm leaving, and they get me out there, and we go through the same thing. So I've been there 50 years. It's like a family.
Yes.
And well, being there, I've been part of Wakulla County for 50 years. I live in Woodville, so I ain't too far from it.
Yeah.
And if y'all I will do it, thank you very much.
Yes. I think, John Shuff, you said you had one more thing to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that I think that situations like this is something we can deal with. We separate the Crawfordville area from the outlying areas and relax our restrictions in the outlying areas, that maybe we can solve problems like this before they happen.
Thank you. Those are all the speaker cards that I have for citizens. Is there any more discussion amongst the commissioners?
Yeah, and I didn't have any discussion yet.
Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
Commissioner.
So, you know, these are suggestions for the most part that we've gotten from the chamber. If this board is considering going back and really revamping our sign ordinance, I think we have to have another workshop at least, advertising for the entire community to come with their suggestions. I'm on the side of less signs is better, and I'm on the side of smaller signs is better. And I don't think I want to see outside of our town area that is now being called. I don't want to see the rest of the county with rules that lets them create a trashy look. And once we allow that, then it becomes more difficult to take that away. So I think we have to move slowly here, and I think it's pretty serious business if we are going to consider revamping the whole sign ordinance.
Well, I'm supportive of signs for the simple reason that I believe that businesses and churches and different things, they have to have the ability to market themselves, and some of these places that are off the main road, like New Light Church Road, they have to have more than one sign in order to direct people to their establishment. I'll give another example, like Gulf Express Marine Laboratory and different things like that. They're on beaten paths, and it may take 2 or 3 or 4 signs to get someone there to that. And so I think there's some things that we can look at as far as size and different things. I don't want to try to limit some areas because there's a lot of, I think each area you have to look at individually, but I am very much supportive of businesses being able to market themselves, and for places like churches and attractions for being able to direct people there.
And if all businesses are operating on the same rules, they will all have the same size signs. And we're not talking about your church sign now. I think that's been resolved. It'll be on the consent agenda. But we're talking about the overall community. And if everyone is playing under the same rules, if your sign is gonna be 3 foot by 2 foot or whatever, and everyone, if that's their max sign, that's the ballgame. No one has an advantage over another person
Just out
or
of
another
curiosity,
business.
Richard, how big is the southern, the new church area, off towards Curtis Mills on the curve there?
Yes, sir.
Southern, what is it?
Oh, now, which sign are you talking about?
Don't they have a sign on 375 pointing you down to the
Do
church
they-
here?
They have a real small sign. They have a small sign.
And was that
uh,
done because of the sign owners? That was done pre-sign ordinance?
No, they don't.
It's just there.
It's just
It's
there.
there. It's just an economical sign that they had but still, there again, that's a sign that's out on 375 directing them how to get to the church that's
And I don't have a
back in
problem with
there.
the sign,
you
I
know.
was just
Yes,
asking.
sir. Anyway,
South Chelsea Southern Baptist Church.
I'm pro signs for that reason. People need to have the ability businesses need to have the ability to market themselves, and places like churches and nonprofits need to have the ability to direct people there to their establishment.
Look at the size of those signs. They take up the entire side of the building. I mean, is that trashy? Is anything wrong with that? I don't think so. You know, I like more freedom. I like people to decide how they use their property. I like more freedom and less government. I don't think that
There has to be some restrictions.
I don't
You
think
agree
there's
with
any.
that?
Sure, but how are we serving our community by telling those folks they can't have those signs?
Yeah, I agree with that.
We got to have common sense. I don't see anything wrong with that. You know?
I don't think anybody wants a lit, animated billboard every 100 feet on 319 either.
No.
But according to more freedom, you could have that. And if that's what you want, you could have. And I think that it's very important that the citizens of this community have a say in an issue that affects all of us. And it's not just an issue that this board's going to go and say, okay, the more signs the better. If you like the way Crawfordville Highway is developing now with all those signs on it, you have a different view of signage than I do. I don't like that. I know a lot of people in this community don't like that. And I think we have to be respectful of those opinions also.
Is there any other way to reach out to citizens to give input? Because a lot of people don't want to go to a workshop. I don't know. Is there any other way to outreach or anything? The poll on the website? I don't know.
Well, I think you also need to think about, has it really hampered business? How many businesses have not come to Wakulla County because the sign was zero? In fact, we just had Walmart and Zaxby's come here, and they could have actually put a bigger sign up, but nationally, signage is shrinking, everybody's going smaller. They could have put something bigger up. They chose not to because that's their standard. They don't want to go bigger. Most sign ordinances are, and the reason chambers are for sign ordinances always, is it makes the levels the ground for the small guy. Because if you all of a sudden, if you were to cut it loose, next thing you know, Walmart could come here and just block out the sun. You know what I mean? And they could overpower. So nationwide, things have gotten smaller, and that's what I'm saying. We've got like Zaxby's, Walmart, the AutoZone up here. They could have actually put bigger signs up, but they actually came in smaller. So I think, I think you're right. That we got to tweak it some, and I think that's what we're doing. I think we need to tweak some to get it better. Maybe get some better definitions, but you got to have some uniformity. I would think you would want to have some.
Maybe not go so far as to allow Chris Russell to put a Walmart sign on his
Exactly.
at his house.
But you got to realize it helps everybody, and it's really,
I'm also very...
Now, I'm sorry, one more thing. All the issues that Ralph is being pointed out, those are all going to be resolved tonight, right? Those automatically become historical signs, even if it's painted on the side of a building?
No, some of those are actually clarifications that we discussed with the chamber, like the difference between a roof sign and a wall sign, and how do we treat murals and painted-on signs. Those just really need to be clarified in the code.
And what it will, like a holiday campground sign, that's an historical sign, so that'll be treated the same.
Well, we're defining that as pre-1985.
That's right.
According
That's
to the
right.
thing tonight.
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So that won't resolve the pictures that Ralph was showing?
No, that won't resolve those.
The painted
those
block
walls. No, that won't resolve that, and but it will resolve the historical sign. What they call as the historical.
But he was showing historical signs, weren't you?
Some were, but we've got some brand new businesses. The bakery that just came into town, that doesn't comply with our ordinance. Caldwell Banker, those are very small, clean, professional signs, take up very little structure of that roof. but they don't meet compliance with our ordinance, and there's no common sense in that. Our ordinance says if there's a freestanding sign, which that business has a freestanding sign, then you can't also have a roof sign, and that particular building has 2 roof signs, so.
El Jalisco's, same thing.
Yeah, McDonald's. The post office, if they had the permit through us, their sign wouldn't be permitted because it's greater than 20%. I mean, all I'm saying is we need to look at these. I'm not trying to make anything trashy. You know, we had a beautiful county here before we tried to put a chokehold on everybody and regulate everything to death, and so I just think a lot of this is overkill.
Well, I think our sign ordinance is only applicable to unincorporated areas. Is that correct, Louis? Because I know the city of Soppshaw has its own sign ordinance.
That's right, yeah, they have.
St. Mark's as well.
And St. Mark's has its own, and whenever, and if they vote for Panacea to be a city, I'm sure it'll have its own sign ordinance, so, anyway.
That's a good point. St. Mark's doesn't have to follow our rules, but Bolin's down there with the 3 signs on top, that no one else could do that in our county outside. And you know, I mean, I just try to look at this thing in a practical standpoint, and who are we serving? Who are we, you know, yeah, you can find someone or a group of people in this county that are going to dislike everything that we can come up with, but you know, we got to get back to the point where unless it's terrible, unless it's hurting our community, we leave people alone and we let people use their property. I just don't. I mean, would anybody look at Bolin's sign and say, "Oh, that's an eyesore on Wakulla County"? I just don't see it.
As far as freedom, I'm all about freedom.
Freedom and wetlands, that's me.
And Jesus.
Yeah, okay, do we have any further discussion with the board? We've got 10 minutes before the regular meeting starts.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that I'm the ringleader. I'm not sure you guys are in agreement. So do I need to bring this back, or does Louis have enough information? I'm glad to bring it back.
He needs direction
Well,
from the board.
let me just advise you, we've got a lot of things we're trying in our reorganization right now. We're going to be working on, and staff needs a little bit of time before we bring this thing back up. We just got a lot of stuff we're trying to filter through. So y'all would give us a little bit of time.
Can he bring back an agenda item to give staff direction to start working on it? That way, at least he can put it on his list.
We can put it on the list. That's fine if and when you want to do that. But just realize we need a little bit of time. We're going through some.
If that involves another workshop, then so be it.
And can I ask the county attorney maybe to clarify a little bit about the free expression signs? I really don't understand how we're not getting into a First Amendment problem when we're limiting a free expression sign on private property, whether it be regular free expression of any topic or a political nature. I mean, that seems to me that's a problem.
Free does not mean you cannot put reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions on it.
Say that again.
Free does not mean that the government can't put reasonable and equal time, place, and manner restrictions.
But I would understand if we said in a residential neighborhood you can't have a sign over 4.5 square feet. But now when we put the caveat on there that it's a specific, political or free expression, isn't that coming into the speech part of it instead of the uniformity of the signs? I mean, if it was across the board, if you can't put any signs in a neighborhood, to me, that's just a government limitation. But now when we're attaching that the speech is the dictating factor of whether or not the sign can be there or whether or not the size.
What section are you referring to?
Let me give you an
Because they're
example.
all we have the same size limitations throughout residential, correct? For residential signs. They're all it's all
Well, we've got a category that specifically says free expression signs, and so real estate signs would not fall into that category. And then we've got
real estate signs, those are
They're
temporary
exempt.
signs, and
I
they also
understand.
have that size limitation.
Could my dad put a sign in his yard in Smith Creek, 4 foot by 4 foot, that said Fire Commissioner Merritt, and leave it there?
not legally, not according to this ordinance.
Sure.
I want to ask a
Right next to
question,
your
Heather.
Walmart sign.
Heather, I want to ask a question as well. Heather, I want to ask a question as well. I was looking, I was researching this one time before, and I thought that I stumbled across something somewhere that said that we're not allowed as a government to regulate the content of a sign. We can only We can only regulate the size and the placement. We can't, like if someone puts a sign on their own residential property that says something like that, or free expression, or...
Well, we're
you
not
know-
gonna tell them what that sign can or cannot say.
Okay.
I mean, that's content. We're not
Right, I just wanted to
getting into
clarify
that
what we...
at all. I mean,
yeah.
this is the reason, the previous provision that was in there that said the county can allow nonprofit signs to be put up on county property at its discretion. That's why we struck that. That's content.
I mean, my opinion, we can fix this by having a provision in there about private property. You know, it's different than commercial, it's different driving up and down the road. If I want to put a sign out on my property that I'm paying taxes for, I mean, I don't see, if it's a problem with my homeowners association, my covenants that I've agreed to comply to, then I get that, then I need to comply with that.
So someone could, in your opinion, could put hate speech up on the side of 319 at their house and have the whole world see it?
Look, we're not free unless we let people be free to have different
I was just
opinions.
asking.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
So you think hate speech is legal?
Well,
I mean, that's the discussion I'm hearing.
But this is...
Are we
My
free
question
to-
was, if
Free
we're
to do
gonna...
illegal things now?
If
That's
we're free...
not what we're calling, not the content.
Sounds
I
like it.
should have said offensive then, Howard. Maybe,
Okay.
maybe.
No, and I'm not getting down on you, I'm just saying that the conversation is, or the discussion is drifting in that area.
I mean, hate speech aside, free expression
Well, okay.
signs are actually...
I don't want us to get off too much on a, I don't want us to get off too much on a
Except
side
for the
trail here.
signs.
Well, we've got 8 minutes to the next meeting. If there's, if there's no further discussion, we can adjourn the workshop, and then about 8 minutes from now, we'll begin the regular meeting. Have a motion to, well,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all right, thank you.
Brandon needs to go eat.
Also, the citizens that are here to speak at the regular meeting, I would ask that if you're intending to speak on any of the agenda items, to go on ahead. I would like to also remind the citizens that are intending to speak tonight, if you're intending to speaking on a particular agenda item, please go ahead now and fill out the speaker card for that agenda item that you're wishing to speak on. We're going to begin the meeting tonight with an invocation. We're going to ask Pastor Gunn from New Light Church Road if will mind leading us in the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. Father, we thank you tonight, Lord, for loving us, all of us, regardless of what the little sign might say outside, Lord. That's not going to matter on that day. It's what's in our heart and our soul. And I appreciate, Lord, the big sign that Wakulla County, the people that love you. They're like myself, country people that really love God. And for all those that are not under that safety rim of His precious blood and Spirit, we pray for them tonight, all of us. We ask you, God, for there's many loved ones that's sitting right here in my presence, that their children are lost, their grandchildren are lost. There's so many of the family that's gone astray. And we ask you tonight, Lord, in this business meeting, in this that must be taken care of, to give these men, our brethren, the wisdom, the understanding of how to deal with all of these problems, my Father. God, that only you can speak to their heart and guide them to what is right and what is wrong. We've got so much, Lord, in this nation of ours that's gone wrong, and so much that's turned away from our God and our Savior. Our hearts cry tonight is bring your people back to you, Lord. Set them on fire with your Spirit, dear God, and become real in our churches once again. Let a flame of fire, Lord, of the Holy Ghost of God saturate every sanctuary, Lord, in this county. And make this people, Lord, help them to love you with all their heart, soul, mind, and spirit. And bless this meeting tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and Okay, are there any changes to be made to the agenda, additions?
Yes, I'd like to add Chris Russell under awards and presentation for Charter Review Committee.
Okay. I would also like to add Chuck Robinson to the awards and presentations to give a presentation on the Wakulla One Stop Community Center, and also he's going to give a presentation on the Wakulla Working Waterfronts Project.
Motion to approve as amended?
Second?
Winston,
Is there any other changes, Commissioner Karen?
I want to pull the item 10 off the consent
You want to
agenda.
pull? We're going to pull item 10 off of the consent agenda.
Modify my motion.
Modify your second, man, you're done. Didn't get put off consent agenda, so it's gonna pass. You're welcome to stay, but I wouldn't if I were you.
That's right, you can go if you want to. If you stay, then have another thing.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Okay, next we're going to have our citizens to be heard section. Okay, I have 3 citizens to be heard. The first citizen is Ron Pasaki.
Almost got second.
Yeah, Ron Pisaki, Royster Drive. This is going to be the final board meeting that you'll see Jamie Bays, and I just want to give a good word for her, and hopefully you guys, if asked, will give her a strong recommendation for a new position. Just hope things work out. Thank you.
Okay, our next citizen is Mr. James Hennessy.
Good evening, Commissioners. James Hennessy, 90 Shady Sea Street, Spring Creek. The 4 commissioners who have voted for repeal of our local wetlands protection have tried to use the notions of freedom and property rights as rationalizations for their actions. Naturally, these words have resonance with many citizens, because who does not want to be free or have their rights over their property? We all do. But that is not what these commissioners are really saying. They are fighting for freedom only so far as it furthers their agenda, but not where it comes to citizens' right to vote. They fought tooth and nail to convince everyone there was no need to vote, because they had been elected to office and had some sort of mandate to overturn the wetlands ordinance. The citizens supposedly knew what they were doing when they voted for them, but these same citizens somehow were not capable of making a smart choice if the referendum made it on the ballot. Many of them now have the audacity to claim that they ran on this very issue. I don't doubt that it was always their intention to undo wetlands protection, and they probably did promise some people, mostly like developers, large animal landowners, and real estate interests, to do that very thing. No doubt it helped them raise money. You need look no further than their campaign contributors. But freedom didn't have much to do with it, unless you count the freedom to cut down trees, pollute our waters, and increase their own wealth and that of their backers. This is the kind of freedom we got when banks, money managers, and mortgage companies were deregulated. That, quotes, freedom is what led to the financial crisis and bursting of the housing bubble a few years ago. The wetland ordinance had nothing to do with this county's economic problems. And that leads us to property rights. Again, a very few weeks ago in this very room, the meaning of these words to our, quotes, freedom fighters became very clear. There was no interest in finding a way to amend the current ordinance to allow variances within the 35-foot no-touch zone, because, in Mr. Hardin's word, that would only help a very few people with small lots, and not those with, quotes, large acres. So we know whose property rights they champion, not those of us who may see our property flooded due to the absence of vegetated buffers and added fill that sends water onto our land, not those of us who would like to enjoy unpolluted waters and nearby access to swimming by unnecessary development, not those of us who would like to see the beauty of this county preserved.
Okay, our next citizen is Mr. Jack Rudlow.
Let me distribute this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Me and Jerry can share, Jack. Oh.
I am very privileged to have won the Environmental Law Institute's National Wetlands Award. I want to thank the four of you guys up there for helping me do that, because created such a rather ludicrous situation of getting rid of the wetlands. But I'm going to read into the record the award language, because I think that's the only way it's going to get heard here. So it says, Environmental Law Institute recognizes 6 National Wetland Award winners, Washington, D.C. The Environmental Law Institute has announced the recipients of the prestigious National Wetlands Award. Individual stewards from across the country who have been recognized for their exceptional and innovative contributions to wetland conservation. Quote, I congratulate the extraordinary individuals selected for the National Wetlands Award for demonstrating how citizens and communities can make a difference, stated Eli President John Cruden. With our federal agency partners, we took forward to the award ceremony that showcases the remarkable contributions that have made to a healthy and productive environment. The 2014 National Wetlands Award recipients will be honored at a ceremony on May 8, 2014 at the U.S. Botanic Gardens starting at 6 p.m. The public is invited to attend. This year's recipients are, and there's about 6 people, but I'll read the part that relates directly to us and Wakulla County. That's it. It says, for almost 50 years, Jack and Ann Rudlow have operated a marine education center from their lab, the Gulf Specimen Marine Lab. The nationally recognized nonprofit center provides members of the public with a hands-on experience in learning about wetlands and coastlines of North Florida. More than 15,000 people pass through the center's doors each year. Actually, it's 20. The Rudlows have also been actively involved in preserving the wetlands of North Florida. While Ann sadly passed away in 2012, Jack continues to work further their conservation legacy. This program is administered by the Environmental Law Institute and supported by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the U.S. Forest Service, Natural Resources Conservation Service, NOAA Fisheries, and the Federal Highway Administration. Eli coordinates the awards program with our federal agency supporters, provides financial support, serves on the selection committee, and participates in the ceremony. Quote, wetlands are part of the foundation of our nature's water resources and are vital to the health of the waterways and communities. They trap floodwaters, you've heard all this, floodwaters, recharge groundwater supplies, remove pollution, provide habitat for fish and wildlife, and are economic drivers because of their key roles in fishing, hunting, agriculture, and recreation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rudlow. That's the 3 minutes.
That's my 3 minutes. Okay. Well, since it'll never be heard any other way, I will accept the 3 minutes. Bear in mind, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for getting me this award, because if it weren't for you and your obstinance, I don't think anybody would have paid as much attention. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mr. Rudlow. Those are the only 3 citizens that I had to speak at the first citizens to be heard. Okay, next we're going to move into our public hearing item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's one public hearing item. It is a request for the board to conduct the public hearing and consider the approval of the ordinance, which would readopt and amend ordinance numbers 1016 and 1301, which are your current wetlands code.
Public hearing and do not approve the ordinance readopting and amending ordinance numbers 1016 and 1301 concerning Wakulla County wetlands protection.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and second to, I have a lot of citizens to speak on this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let the citizens speak, and then we'll speak as well. Okay, our first citizen to speak on this is Chuck S.
I'm getting to go first, that's fine. You know, I understand you're, you've been against this for a long time. It just seems to me that this is your opportunity to go ahead and recognize that there's a large movement in the county and for wetlands protection. Get it off the ballot and just go ahead and implement it at this time. Fiscally, it would be very appropriate for you to do this, and it would be probably a really good move. You know, I can sit here and talk about wetlands and why buffers are important, but this is probably a good idea to approve this and disapprove the motion just made. Thank you.
Okay, our next citizen to speak is Miss Danita Lambu.
I just want to speak in favor of the ordinance remaining intact. I just want to remind everyone what happened in New Orleans and with Katrina. No one there listened to the scientists when they warned them that they needed to protect their wetlands, and there was too much building going on there, and a lot of property, a lot of people were destroyed because of it, because they weren't prepared for a big storm coming through. So I just would ask that you would remember what other people have learned in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, let me ask Heather a question real quick. Heather, if we pass this tonight...
Hold on, Randy, if you don't mind, I'm going to I want to go through the citizens, and then whenever we get to our discussion amongst
It has relevance for what they're talking about, but go ahead.
Yes. Okay, and Miss Danita Lambu?
She just spoke.
Okay. Mr. Ron Pisecki?
Yes, Ron Pisecki, 137 Royster. I'm here speaking as chairman of the Wakulla Springs Alliance, which I think you're all familiar with. And if you look at our letterhead, it's filled with the top scientists actually in the state, working on hydrogeology sort of things. I also handed out to each of you a BMAP chart. The BMAP is a process, and I think you're all familiar with the process, but Wakulla County is a participant in this. And there was a draft document came out back in November which showed this BMAP, and it also had a chart listing what cities, counties, municipalities had agreed to. And in that document it said that Wakulla County had agreed to have a wetlands ordinance and to have buffers. So that's, if you take the action to get rid of the ordinance, that's in conflict with what you committed to the BMAP process, and you'll have to work to reconcile that. If you look at this chart, this is much larger than the Springs Protection Area. And again, if you'd read the document, it says this boundary was established by the scientists in the state. Now, there's also some legislation called Springs Protection Senate Bill 1576, which I was able to testify on Monday on the Senator Monford's committee, which it passed through there real fast. It looks like that will pass the Senate this year and hopefully the House, if not this year, next year. But included in there is taking money from the dock stamp program and funding the BMAP program, which would mean, and as I was telling David earlier, if Wakulla County, to be in compliance with the BMAP, decided to put sewer system in Wakulla Gardens, you wouldn't have to pay for it up front. You would go to the BMAP program and submit a shovel-ready project. And if approved, funds would come out in advance. Good thing about the legislation, we're all concerned about cost to citizens. This requires that the citizens not pay a cent for the hookup or to destroy their septic systems. But that's integrally tied with the wetlands ordinance, especially the boundaries we're talking about. So, Randy, as I understood you, you said that you don't approve is what your motion was. I recommend you go along with what David and Heather recommended, which was when I looked at the agenda request, it said option 1. And I strongly support their recommendations to adopt and go with option 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next citizen to speak is Mr. Eugene Watkins.
Hello, my name is Eugene Watkins, Crawfordville, Florida. I want to speak about property rights. Over the last 6 months, you commissioners have made the argument that the wetlands ordinance takes away property rights. At the last meeting, Ralph said this is about freedom for America. Ralph, if you are truly concerned about America, freedom, and property rights, then why don't you bring up property rights as an agenda item on its own? There are many zoning laws and ordinances that are taking away property rights. You can start with zoning laws that prevent people from having a mobile home on their property. There are people that they can't put a mobile home anywhere on their property. And Randy can help out by, he can put up on the screen all the properties in the county that somebody can't put a mobile home on their property. If you're going to talk about property rights, we know your views on the wetlands. Please choose another ordinance or another zoning law you would like to remove so we can give people back their property rights. I think we have zoning laws and ordinance so society can function. I think you know why we need and always will have zoning laws and ordinances. I don't think you believe zoning laws and ordinances take away property rights since you only bring it up on the wetlands issue. I haven't heard y'all bring it up on all these other zoning laws that take away people's rights. And I too would wish that you guys would follow the recommendations of the county administrator and the county attorney. Right on this page it shows that they supported option 1, that they said that we should adopt our ordinance that was in the petition. And if you do decide not to follow their recommendations, I wish you would at least keep the ordinance in place and let the people vote on it in November. Thank you.
Our next citizen to speak is Hugh Taylor.
Once again, the negative motion and in the quick second. I guess you guys are reading each other's minds. That's all I can say. And all I can say about this is please go along with Mr. Edwards and Ms. Encinosa. Put this thing, just vote it into law and quit fooling around. I'd like to talk to you all about a movie you all were invited to. Nobody bothered. The movie was A Flash of Green. The library, which always has been a place of opinion, free expression. The library was packed. We had to turn people away. I'm still getting a reaction from the movie that my wife and I put on. If you all were there, you would understand, and I think you do, the depth and the breadth of water and wetlands protection in this county. You'd understand those citizens' feelings about water. Please just consider it as an alternative. If you have to have a 5-0 vote, you can workshop that if it's put into the law. The negative, Commissioner Merritt's negative vote is we need to realize where we live. Wakulla is a special and a fragile place. You guys said repeal it. The citizens have crossed the highest bar in the state of Florida, and it's going to pass like you ain't seen if it goes to referendum. So go ahead and put it into law and follow the suggestions of people who are legally and financially giving you pretty good advice. Thank you.
Our next citizen is Miss Jeannie Beck.
Gentlemen, is planning and zoning property rights issue? Can I build a shopping center, gas station, or apartment building wherever I want because it's my property? People with houses on the water followed the free market law of supply and demand. They paid a lot of money for something in a beautiful natural county. Now, some people with money or connections want to use land in a way it was not zoned for, probably when they bought it. Even if not, that is what is behind this false outrage about property rights. We currently have beaches that more often than not post warning signs about swimming. We have families that have depended on fishing for generations. Who will come here if they can't swim or fish, especially if the waterfront gets overbuilt? Or heaven forbid, like much of the other parts of Florida, all kinds of canals are made to supply more waterfront development. I'm not anti-development, but I want a vision that is a good fit for our county. I have seen too many places in my life go through development to the point of being unrecognizable because the best interests of the people were not represented. This hardly seems like an opportune time to mess with the wetlands. Houses are hard to sell. Empty stores are all over the county, some of them left over from the development surge of 10 years ago. Now, I am aware the interests of real estate and development are well represented here. When residents of this county express concern, they do not need to be ridiculed or snickered at. Labeling them something derogatory is out of the question. Ralph, I'm most disappointed in you. Before you were elected, you were in our Freedom and Liberty group, where we admired the Founding Fathers, not Saul Alinsky. Calling people socialist, collectivist, or whatever Marxist term you come up with is not only false, but not appropriate. How would you like to be labeled crony capitalist, rhino, disingenuous? This is our community, and this board is as close to the people as government gets. The wetlands buffer is not a property rights issue in this debate. Let's get into code enforcement if you want to go down the property rights road. Thank you.
Our next citizen to speak is Robert Thompson.
Robert Thompson, 46 Thompson Road, Crawfordville. Commissioners, I ask you to please re-adopt the wetlands ordinance. Wetlands are filters to remove pollution from runoff entering our springs, our rivers, our lakes, the Gulf of Mexico. Wetlands are nursery grounds for wildlife, including fish and shellfish of our seafood industry. So the timing of this repeal of the wetlands ordinance just doesn't seem right. We're now at a time when our water is less clear, when we have unnaturally high levels of algae as a result of elevated nitrates in the water. Recreational and commercial fisheries, their catches are decreasing. So if all these were stable or increasing, then I could see that, maybe you could decrease wetlands protection. But in fact, all those items that I identified are decreasing, indicating that we're in a period of decline as far as our natural resources are concerned. So I feel like now is the time to protect wetlands. They are essential for the county, for the many citizens of the county, their health and even their wealth. Thank you.
Our next citizen to speak is Sandy Tedder.
I'm Sandy Tedder, South Choppy, Florida, and I know that we all know that a buffer is important. You all have said that yourselves, and I just don't think that the state's 25-foot buffer is enough. I mean, we've seen that all over the world people are trying to get back what they lost when their ecology and their wildlife habitats have gone away because they didn't protect and they didn't have a big enough buffer. People all over the world are trying to get back their clean water, their fishing, their hunting, and really it's been shown by scientists and just regular common sense that the bigger your buffer, the more habitat you save, the better your fishing, hunting, and living is. I mean, people get more enjoyment when they can be out in nature. We take our problem children and we take them out into the woods and it straightens them out. I mean, it really has been shown that you take children that have disturbances in their, you know, mental facilities, if you take them outside, that helps them. That brings them back around. And I think the outside is important to people, and I think we should maintain the habitat so that when we go outside, we have places to go and enjoy, places to go fish, places to hunt, places to hike, places to canoe, and a broader buffer will preserve the habitat better than a very small one, which is what you all are proposing. Thanks.
Our next citizen to speak is Larry Roberts.
Larry Roberts, South Chavia. I was pleased to see this item on the agenda today, so I'm not surprised. I'm not pleased to see the motion, or hear the motion that was passed to not go that way. I think Mr. Thomas, I believe, in one of his letters to the Wakulla News, talked about the probability, possibility of liability if there was an open space where people could do other things, and we put new restrictions on it. Your prophecy, it looks to be that you gentlemen, some of you are trying to make that happen in order to intimidate the public to vote against this in November. From what I saw from the numbers of voters that were for the petition drive that signed on this, I think the people of Wakulla County really want this wetlands ordinance to stand. And I think those of you who vote otherwise are deliberately, or at least knowingly, putting them in a position where the county, or putting the entire county in a position where it might have increased liability. Thank you.
Next citizen to speak is Mr. David Damon.
David Damon, Crawfordville. Thank you, Commissioners. The people have spoken, yet it appears you're not listening still. 5,500 citizens, all registered voters, have signed the petition and said they want to keep the ordinance and they want to protect the wetlands, or they want a right to vote on it in November. This is going to follow you guys right up to the election. If you choose to let it go to the referendum, it will become the major campaign issue. People are mad. They are tired of not being listened to. You apparently don't think they're smart enough to make this decision for themselves, so you listen to a handful of special interests that have your ear and a handful of your supporters and keep shoving this down everybody's throat. We don't want it. Listen to the people for a change. You've misled the citizens with your version of property rights. This is about property rights. It's about your right to have your property protected from your neighbor filling in his wetlands. You guys are not protecting property rights. You guys are going to probably make this sound like it's going to bring on legal battles, and you're going to mislead a handful of people, and you're going to try to spread the word, oh, vote against it in November because of that. Well, you guys are bringing this to us. It is you four that have brought this. And if we get in a bunch of lawsuits with the county, know that it is on your backs. It's time to start listening to the citizens for a change. Thank you.
Our next citizen to speak is Mr. James Hennessy.
James Hennessy, I still live in Spring Creek. Commissioners, if you truly care about this county, you have a final chance to demonstrate it and adopt the wetlands ordinance. And I would like to remind you that the buffer zones provided in that ordinance already represented a compromise in terms of the science and what was good for this county. Over 30% of the county signed a petition to put it on the ballot, and as someone who was out there going door to door and at community events, the vast majority of citizens I met not only supported the right to vote on the wetlands, but were supporters of keeping our current protections. I feel very confident that the referendum will pass. However, If you feel that you have the better argument and that the majority of citizens support that view, then what is the harm in waiting until after the election to act? If you are right, the referendum won't pass and there'll be no further obstacle to repeal. Waiting a few months to finalize the repeal would be not much of a price to pay for being able to proceed without hindrance and having been validated. If, on the contrary, you go forward as planned and the referendum does pass, then there will be a mess to undo, and you will have potentially and unnecessarily caused harm to the county. Certainly the threat of lawsuits is one constantly raised by some of you and your supporters. But whose fault would that be? And who exactly would be suing? Probably these very same supporters of yours who feel entitled to make money regardless of the consequences to the average taxpayer and the county itself. It is these same landowners who have been already paying less than their fair share of taxes on their large acres. If you truly care about this county, I urge you to adopt the ordinance as written, noting that it does allow for common sense amendments if all of you can find a way to cooperate. And wouldn't that be a nice novelty? Failing that, you can still take the compromise step to await the citizens' verdict. I am sure you all want to go forward with a clear conscience, knowing you truly are representing Wakulla's voters.
Our next speaker is Ms. Dana Peck.
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. I just want to digress a little bit here because I've been watching the smug smiles on some of your faces and the guffaw from your county administrator when a couple of people stood up here and acted as if what your county administration posted online on an official document was really true, that the county attorney and the county staff had recommended option 1, that you approve this law and not waiting for it to go to the ballot. So if you're laughing because what you posted on this official document is really not true, it is another glaring example of irresponsibility on the part of this administration. Another example of irresponsibility. But now let me get back to why I'm standing up here. When I came here, I knew the odds of you all approving this proposal was about as good as UConn beating Kentucky tonight in the NCAA final championship. But other than that, I was thinking maybe Mr. Merritt might approve it because he's looking at re-election and he'd like to look good to the people of Wakulla County. And I say look good because if you take away the buffers for the wetlands in this county, you look bad and you are hurting people's lives by doing so. The real question at night before you close your eyes is, who am I helping? Who am I benefiting by taking away the buffers to these wetlands? The answer may be some developers, and I hate to say that, because there are developers who want tomorrow to be at least as good as today, and they're responsible. But there are builders and developers, we won't name names, who might think it's okay to build really close to a wetland and endanger all of our future prosperity. And here's what I mean by that. If you look at FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating Standard, that's really neat. There are things this county can do that can lower, it says, insurance rates up to possibly 45%. And this county's not doing that. Instead, you're about to do something worse. You get flood insurance credit for protecting endangered species. You hurt them when you take away buffers to wetlands. You get flood insurance credits when you protect the habitat. You hurt it when you take away the buffers for the wetlands. You hurt the housing industry if you raise flood insurance rates because people can't sell their houses and other people can't buy them. Who is it you're really benefiting? Maybe, possibly a few of your friends, but not everybody else in this county.
Our next citizen to speak is Mr. Al Shalofsky.
Al Shalkowski, 351 Canal Street. I'm not sure where it talks about property rights in the Constitution, but I know that in the Constitution it says that you're supposed to protect the general welfare. That comes first, I think. And not cleaning up our beaches, doing away with our wetlands buffers is not protecting the general welfare. Our beaches are already polluted, our kids can't go swimming, you're messing with our hurricane protection, our storm surge protection, and you just don't really seem to care. So I'm not going to pretend that you guys are concerned about the wetlands. Please don't pretend that you care about the Constitution. Thank you.
Our next citizen to speak is Mr. Bob Danzig.
Hi, my name is Bob Danzig. Excuse me. Well, I reckon time for common sense, huh? You see, out of that many people that spoke, you would think at least one of them would be accurate about something. And there's still going to be buffers. The state has buffers. One person said they didn't think that was adequate, but there's still buffers, and all these people want to talk about is building in the wetlands or destroying wetlands. I don't think any wetlands are going to get destroyed. There's going to be a clear buffer. And it's up to y'all if y'all clarify this or not, but there's going to be buffers around sinkholes that are there now that are going to continue to be. What we're proposing to do is not going to affect those. Inland, the majority of wetlands are some sort of karst feature. So it's not going to affect a lot of those karst features, a lot of the wetlands at all. The reason we have this in the first place is an overreach that is being taken back to where it probably should be. There was a board before y'all that didn't listen, as my friends out here say. They didn't listen because we tried to tell them, don't do this. In 2010, they reinstated it. We asked them, don't do this. It's not a good idea, and don't be so restrictive. Because 2006 we had one. When it went away because of a judge ruling, 2010 we got another one, but it was stronger than the one in 2006. So it was an overreach then. We're just pulling it back to where it ought to be. They talk about you're going to destroy our land. Have you been to Perry, or have you been to the west? We've got forest land from here to Panama City to the west. And if you've been to Perry, and most of us have, all the forest land that's out there, there's tons and tons of wetlands that's not being affected. But the Bible even says we get to live here on earth and enjoy it. So we have our little place here in Wakulla County, a third or so of the county that we can use. And they don't even want us to use that. All they want to do is control what we do with our land. The other thing I want to bring up is a sore subject, and I'm glad it's sore because it's true and it hurts. $600,000 has been spent on this wetlands ordinance in lawsuits. And some people will say, well, no, it wasn't, because maybe it wasn't directly. But I'll tell you this, if we didn't have it, the money wouldn't have been spent, and there wouldn't have been the lawsuits. So, you got $600,000. You want to talk about liabilities? If we keep it, it's just going to get worse. There's just no way around it. Return the rights to the people.
Thank you, Mr. Dancy. Our next speaker is Mr. Jacob Reese.
Jacob Reese, Crawfordville, Florida. I didn't come up here to spout off any strong facts or opinion. Obviously that's been done. Obviously there's a polarization here, just like what's happening in our country. It's a shame. It's a battle over ego. It's a battle over who thinks they're right. It's not about truth. So I'm just here to give some truth. That was a beautiful prayer we had that opened up our meeting here, and I can agree. I think everyone here that bowed their head could agree to that. Truth is, I moved to this county 15 years ago, and when I first moved here, I got bit by mosquitoes and no-see-ums, and the humidity was bad, and I thought, where the hell did I move? Because I moved from out west. I used to fish on the Colorado River. And where I moved, man, what was good? That was the instant thing I thought. But then I went fishing. And it reminded me of when I was a boy out on the Colorado River catching rainbow trout. It brought something back to me. And I really think if we're going to look at truth, we need to look at truth. You know, we're bringing God and religion and things like that into this. Well, God made fish. Caesar gave us concrete. And to be honest with you, if we're going to look at truth, that's their environment. And it's not hurting anybody. It's really not hurting anybody for us to protect what God gave us so it can be there for our children and their children. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Miss Lorraine Lambu.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just want everybody to know I love this county. This is a beautiful county, one of the best places that I've ever lived, with access to fish and hunting. Even if I can't do it now, I can see the younger people enjoying all of this, and it's for our benefit. I believe Wakulla County government should protect our wetlands. It's our responsibility. It's ours. God gave it to us, not the responsibility of the state. We will be helping our own economy by having tourists visit and enjoying the things that our young people enjoy, fishing and hunting, and the varied wildlife we have to offer them. It's just beautiful. We take pictures of everything. It's just so beautiful. And we, our citizens, can continue to enjoy the abundance of seafood that these wetlands provide. They were created by God for a purpose, and they need to continue their purpose to providing food, labor, all sorts of things. So let's protect our wetlands. Appreciate them. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Mr. Victor Lambu.
Thank you. It's hard to follow some very eloquent speakers, except one which I certainly disagree with. I chair the Wakulla Wetlands Allowance. We did obtain 30% of the voters in each voting district, which tells you something. Tells you people are concerned with the protecting our wetlands. Most of you thought that was impossible, and we showed you it wasn't impossible. Now you have an option. Vote our petition in as an ordinance and place it on the ballot for the next general election. That is the law. When I read the document from your staff, it said they were recommending that you vote it in as law. That's still the document I see. I understand that maybe they didn't mean that, or some people think they didn't mean that. I don't know. But you shouldn't have documents around that unless saying exactly what you say and you don't mean. It is evident that the majority of our citizens wish to maintain local control of our wetlands. The process of trying to remove local laws protecting our wetlands has been very disruptive to our citizens as well as to the county and our affairs and businesses located in the city. The adoption of this ordinance by you will restore some predictability and confidence in our county affairs. Even if the county commission decides to put it on the ballot at the next general election, we strongly believe, I think it is very obvious, that it would be approved by our citizens. But disturbance and disruptions of our county citizens and county business affairs will continue for some time. And Mr. Thomas' bogus assertions that the ordinance is taking away our individual freedoms and is a taking, it will continue. But we need to get rid of all zoning laws, if what Mr. Thomas is saying. That every zoning law we have takes away some freedom. There are lots of other things you can do to take away, to give freedom back. Are you for taking away all red lights and let people run lights and have accidents? That's for the citizens' good. I suspect maybe you would make the exceptions for that. And Mr. Thomas, would you like someone next door to you to build a sports arena, open a pool hall or a nightclub, or a waste dump, a garbage dump, or recycling? Or would you allow someone next door to you to have zero setbacks to your property line or to the street by you? I think that would hurt your neighborhood.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Limby. That's the 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Jack Rudlow.
I'm going to continue reading another paragraph from this Environmental Wetlands Award. Not because I'm egotistical and not because I'm saying, look at me, we did this, because this refers to these heroic citizens who rose to the challenge, overrode your opposition, and did a marvelous job. I can't tell you how proud I am of the citizens of Wakulla County. And not just the newcomers and not just the people that are coming in. I'm talking about citizens, fishermen, people that have lived here all their lives. They're overriding you, and they will sweep 2 of you out of office very shortly. Anyway, to finish the quote, we're in a race against time to protect wetland landscapes and the benefits they provide for wildlife and local communities across the nation. Wetlands are increasingly at risk, threatened by rising sea levels, persistent drought, or falling under the plow as crop prices rise, said the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Director Dan Ash. That is why we are proud to celebrate these dedicated people whose vital contributions to wetland conservation benefit all Americans. This is said to me in this situation, but I'm saying it to you in this room. I'm very proud of you, and I appreciate what you have done. Randy, I'm sorry to lose you as a commissioner because I think you're a good man. I voted for you. I'm going to not vote against you. Jerry Moore is Jerry Moore. Goodbye.
Our next citizen to speak is Mr. Keith Grumbly.
My name's Keith Grumbly. I'm an active voter in South Choppy, and I'm just very concerned because I've always considered myself a physical conservative, which means that we are watch out for protecting our county and protecting the assets of our county. What I don't understand is why it's such a rush to go ahead and get rid of whatever we have now and not wait until the election. I mean, unless there's somebody you or some of your friends have some place that you want to build right away, or you have some kind of development or something going on, I do not understand why you cannot wait until the election. Because what you're doing is you're opening up this county to issues because of your lack of foresight and waiting to let the people make up their mind. And I just hope that you will have the foresight to wait until the election and then decide what to do about the wetlands ordinance at that point, and not leave this county open to physical troubles. Thank you.
Our last citizen to speak is Mr. John Hedrick.
Hello, Commissioners and audience. I'm John Hedrick. I'm chair of the Panhandle Citizens Coalition, and I'm here tonight to support the courageous citizens, our affiliate organization, and the citizens generally in Wakulla County for taking on this Herculean task of getting this measure on the ballot. The 30% requirement is the stiffest in Florida for state, for local, city, county. It's one of the stiffest in the entire country. And for that to have been achieved for something like this, independent of where that mark should have been set in the first place for a charter amendment, is very outstanding. That's more than vote in many elections to just get those type of numbers. I think it's crystal clear what the citizens of Wakulla County are intending happen, and that's to see this ordinance go ahead and be put into law now, continue into law now, rather than to even subject it to an election. And that's what we certainly would urge you to do tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Can I ask the other question now?
Go ahead.
Are we voting to continue the ordinance tonight, or are we voting to adopt the one that's on the referendum?
The ordinance that is up tonight is substantive provisions that are in your code right now with the additional non-repeal provisions
So-
that are suggested by the referendum ballot.
Exactly. If this passes tonight, then any modification to this ordinance will require a 5-0 vote. Is that correct? Thank you.
Yes.
I also want to ask another question, Heather. So if we were to do option one, okay, and we gave some here tonight what it is that the Wetlands Alliance, what it is they're wanting. If we did option one and it went in tonight, would there still be a referendum ballot in November?
No.
Okay. The ironic thing that I want to mention about this is for the last 6 months, the Wetlands Alliance has went door to door telling everyone in the county that us 4 commissioners were denying them their right to vote. Okay, now everyone, including, I'm sure Commissioner Casser's going to say the same thing. Each of the people that come up here to speak tonight was asking us to do option one whenever the motion and second was for option two. Our county attorney just said that if we went option one, like each of the members of the Wetlands Alliance wanting us to do tonight, then there would be no referendum. So then the Wetlands Alliance themselves would have denied the citizens the right to vote in November, as verified by our county attorney. Okay. For the last 6 months, myself and 3 other commissioners have been blasted in every social media that can be, and went door to door telling citizens that we were denying the citizens' right to speak. Okay, I don't agree with the ordinance that's presented in the ballot. I'm not going to vote for it whenever it goes to ballot. But you know what? The 30% requirement was met. It's going to go to ballot. It's going to be in the citizens' hands one way or the other in November. That's why tonight I'm going to be voting for option two as the motion was done, not to approve the one that's being presented in the ordinance, but to keep the one we got now. But I just wanted to clarify that these 4 commissioners are going to vote tonight to allow the vote that we do tonight will allow the citizens to vote in November. But if we were to do what the Wetlands Alliance wanted us to do tonight, the citizens themselves wouldn't be voting.
I take objection to what you just said, Mr. Chairman. In all due respect, that is a false statement.
Our county attorney just spoke before I spoke.
You are not
Commissioner.
giving the citizens the right to vote tonight. That is a false statement.
No, sir, it's not. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, there's plenty of discussion.
The floor is open, Commissioner Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Approve to conduct the public hearing and approve the ordinance readopting and amending ordinance numbers 10-16 and 1301 concerning Wakulla County wetlands protections. Option 1. Option 2. Approve to conduct the public hearing and do not approve the ordinance readopting and amending ordinance number 1016 and 1301 concerning Wakulla County wetlands protections. Option 2. 3. Board direction. Recommendation. Option number 1. Nowhere in those options is there anything said about giving the citizens the right to vote. As a matter of fact, if my memory serves me correctly, this board did vote to not allow the citizens to have this on the ballot. And that's why the citizens had to go out and gather petitions. If the board had wanted the citizens to vote, the board would have voted to put the amendment on the ballot themselves, which they could have done, and they chose not to. So let's not rewrite history. False statements are false. Everyone's allowed, how does that saying go? You're entitled to your own opinions, but not your own facts. I think we should be careful of that as we speak. I'm glad Mr. Rudlow got up and read that paragraph that I intended to read, and I think it's important enough to read again.
quote, "We're in a race against time to protect wetland landscapes, and the benefits they provide for wildlife and local communities across the nations. Wetlands are increasingly at risk, threatened by rising sea levels, persistent drought, or falling under the plow as crop prices rise." I think it's more than common sense. It's also science. It tells us that wetlands and their buffers are important for keeping, and you've heard it many times, our water pure, controlling flood abatement, protecting the food chain, protecting our environment, and boosting our economy. We've heard many statements, and we've heard things about buffers that the state was going to make sure are provided. We also got letters that said, when you're looking at one individual piece of property and there's building going on, there are no state buffers. We were told by members of this board that local wetlands protections are a duplication of state protections. Totally false. We were told by members of this board that local wetland protections are a taking. False. We were told that there was no science showing the value of wetland buffers. We have it. It's there for you to read or listen to. And we were told that the state has and will adequately protect our wetlands. False. And how can I say false to that? Look at the track record in Florida. Look at our springs being decimated throughout the state. If I was out of these chambers, I would use...
Mr. Kessler, I have a motion.
I am speaking right now, Mr. Chairman, and
Yes,
I
sir.
think that
Robert's Rules of Order, I'm going to yield the floor to Commissioner Merritt.
I'll make a motion to the previous question. If there's a second, we go directly to a vote. That vote passes. We go directly to the motion on the floor, end of debate, end of issue.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made and second to not approve for I have a motion made and second for the previous question.
You made a motion to
call the question.
Correct.
Okay, I have a motion made and second to call the question. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Now we vote on the...
Okay, now we're going to vote on the item. And I also had a motion and second, correct? I had a motion and second to not approve the ordinance readopting and amending ordinance numbers 1016 and 1301 concerning Wakulla County wetlands protections. So I had a motion made and second.
Yes.
I'm going to go on and vote.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
No offense, Howard.
I take it, though.
Thank you.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded.
Hold on.
Oh, no, before we do a consent agenda, we're going to do awards and presentations.
I've done the same thing, Ralph.
Our first award and presentation is going to be the announcement of Power Talk 21 Day by Heather Peoples, Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Heather Peoples. I'm with Mothers Against Drunk Driving of Northwest Florida.
Could you hold on a second? Hold on. Let's wait just a second. Let's let it calm down just a little bit. I'm sorry. You have something very important, so we need
Thank you.
We need to give you all the respect and time.
That's disrespect.
If you don't mind, we're going to move ahead with the meeting.
Gavel, please.
Come on, guys.
I'm gonna ask for the discussion to be held down in the assembly. Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you for having me here. Power Talk 21 is MAD's national campaign to encourage parents to talk to their teens about underage drinking and drunk driving, because research shows that by simply having the conversation, parents are more able to prevent their teens from drinking underage, or if they do drink, they're more likely to not binge drink at those serious, dangerous levels, which is the biggest issue. So thank you so much for supporting MAD's mission in Wakulla County and helping us to get the information needed to parents. And as part of Power Talk 21, I wanted to give the commissioners a copy of our MAD Power Parents Handbook. So you'll also have that information, and we encourage everyone here, if you would like to be involved with Power Talk 21 and part of MAD's campaign, you do have an office that's available. So thank you again.
Thank you. Our next presentation is going to be the Friends of the Library celebration. Is going to be the Friends of the Library celebration by Ms. Sue Belfort.
Hi, I'm here to thank you all, commissioners, very much for your support of the library, and to thank the community. Without your support, we would not be the awesome place that we are. I am the president of the Friends of the Library, and I wanted to let you know that we're in the middle of a drawing for a Samsung Galaxy tablet. Tickets are available at the library and at our Worm Grunton Festival booth and all over the place. And we're going to actually do the drawing at our 38th birthday celebration. The Friends of the Library have been around for 38 years now in Wakulla County. We're going to be having a big celebration party at the library at 6 o'clock on April 26th. We'd love to see you all there. We'll be drawing for the tablet at that point, but you do not have to be present to win. We are also having a speaker that night. We expect her to begin about 6:45. We're lucky to get Betty Jean Steinshauer, who has done several different programs for us at the library, but it's been a while since she's come. She's going to be speaking on 3 views of Hemingway. In Act 1, she's Gertrude Stein, and if you've ever seen her, she acts out these speeches or parts. In Act 2, she is Willa Cather. In Act 3, she is Marjorie Kinnan Rollins, and they'll each be talking about how they know Hemingway. We would love to see everybody there. Thank you.
Our next presentation is going to be Chuck Robinson. He's going to be giving 2 presentations.
Thank you, Commissioner. I got some handouts here for you. And there'll be additional handouts for anyone else interested that's here tonight. And thank you, Commissioner Harden, by the way, for getting us on the agenda. I apologize for the late notice. Commissioners, staff, and fellow Wakulla citizens, the Wakulla One Stop Community Center would like to extend a warm invitation to the grand opening of the center on this Friday, April 11th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at 318 Shadeville Road, which is in Crawfordville, of course, at the corner of Trice Lane. As you know, the Wakulla One Stop Community Center is a project that has been building upon months of work on an idea years in the making. Together with our partners, the Florida Department of Health Wakulla, the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office, Wakulla County Public Library, NAMI of Wakulla, Disc Village, the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth and all its member organizations, and of course, the Wakulla County Board of County Commissioners, the center is opening its doors to the community to fulfill its mission to enhance healthy lifestyles by providing a one-stop center for opportunities, resources, and connections that strengthen all citizens, youth, individuals, and families. The grand opening of the Wakulla One Stop Community Center will feature speakers, vendors, games, recreational activities, music, and more for all ages. All of our partners and supporting organizations will be on hand to provide information on things like summer camps, after-school care, activities, programs, classes, and much more. Once again, the grand opening will be on this Friday, April 11th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the new Wakulla One Stop Community Center located at 318 Shadeville Road. If you would like more information about the event or the center, be sure to check out our website at wakullaonestopcommunitycenter.com or give us a call at 850-745-6042. Once again, that number is 850-745-6042. Also, be sure to check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/Wakulla One Stop Community Center, or simply search Facebook for Wakulla One Stop Community Center. And, of course, fan the page if you would. We can't wait to see you at the grand opening. And I would also like to take a moment to extend another invitation to an historic event that will be taking place at the Wakulla One Stop Community Center a week later. If you'll recall, last fall, Herb Donalds and I were here, and the Wakulla's Working Waterfronts Photo Project came before you to announce the kickoff of our special project. With the help of the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth and a grant from the Florida Department of Cultural Affairs, 6 local photographers set out to capture the everyday lives of our hard-working seafood and maritime industry families who have toiled for generations to bring us the freshest Gulf seafood. After many months of battling a very cold and wet winter, including the infamous ice storm, the photographers submitted hundreds of photos to be judged by a panel of local judges with the arduous task of selecting the best 45 photographs that depicted the lives and labors of those remarkable families. The Wakulla's Working Waterfronts Photo Project is proud to announce the grand reveal of these 45 photographs at a momentous event on Thursday, April 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Wakulla One Stop Community Center. The event features 45 photographs that have been beautifully mounted and framed, and multimedia slideshows including the other photographs captured. The photographers and fishing families will be in attendance to talk about their wonderful experiences and what the project has meant to the county. We will we will also begin assembling what we call a family tree for the fishing families. Food vendors will be on hand to once again deliver the best seafood in the state. For more information about the project and the photos, be sure to visit wakullasworkingwaterfronts.com or like us on Facebook by searching for Wakulla's Working Waterfronts Photo Project. We also have a special radio program about the project currently playing on Wave 94.1 every day between now and the event. Check out our Facebook page for dates and times. Please be sure to also share and spread the word about this historic project with your friends and family. Once again, we can't wait to see you on Thursday, April 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Wakulla One Stop Community Center for the Wakulla's Working Waterfronts Photo Project Grand Reveal. Thank you very much.
Okay, our next awards and presentation is going to be given by Chris Russell, who's going to be speaking on the progress of the Charter Review Committee.
Thank you, Commissioners. First of all, that's very exciting to hear. A lot of progress. Great. The Charter Review Committee has met 3 times. The first time was an organizational meeting. The next 2 were more productive. And I'm just here to give you a report. I'm the chairman for the committee. And speaking with David the other night, thought it would be a good idea to come and give you an update. Let me start by saying your staff does a great job of helping us on that. Really a shout out to Jessica. No offense, Dave, but she is really helping us get it. Dave did get a job the other night. He didn't take the notes like she does, but they have done a very good job, and you should be proud. So just to give you a quick rundown, what we're doing is we're going through the charter. As you know, the citizens that volunteered, and y'all made the selections to put on there, and we've gone through article by article, and it's gone very well, in my opinion. We are basically about the end of making our first pass. Probably could have made it the other night, ran out of time. We will definitely wrap that up at the next meeting, the first pass. What we've been doing is going along section by section by section by section, and what we do is a straw ballot. We look and we say, hey, does it look good? Does it need changes? Where are we at? Things that are fine and don't need any change at all, we move on, just check mark. If we want to come back and get in further discussion, we take a ballot right then. And it's worked out very well. Figure out, if it's something we need to look at or whatnot. So far, we've had like 8 or 9 things that we're going to come back on and look in deeper, strictly out of this. Now, there are other ideas and suggestions that have been submitted to us that we will look at later. We're strictly right now just trying to get through what's here in your charter, our charter, the citizens' charter. I must say we have a great working group. Everyone, I think county administrator can attest. I think everyone's doing a great job there. The downside is we're just not getting a public input like we'd like. We've had 2 citizens come to our meetings. We're on our 3rd meeting. That's outside of Commissioner Thomas, who came to the first one. So we'd sure like to see more folks come out. We're advertising and everything, but it's just happening. Let me give you a rundown on what we've gone through and kept. First of all, congratulations, Dave Evers. We kept the county administrator position. intact, not necessarily you as the county administrator, but just my county administrator. And we also kept intact the separation of powers. That's going to be our recommendation coming back on those. And then basically the general provisions. A lot of the charter was stuff that was taking place as the initial charter going in. So it's really non-applicable for us right now because it was the baseline going forward as the charter. Things that are going to be looked at coming back through the straw ballot process. Possibly single member districts, term limits, residency requirements, ordinances by petition, nonpartisan offices for all locally elected officials, and possibly budget items reserves. All those things are items that we voted on, and the majority voted to bring it back for further discussion. So basically we're trying to get our working face a little smaller so we can get into deeper discussions. I will say right now, the items that the item that is definitely coming out of there in all appearance is nonpartisan for locally elected officials. There's agreement across the board. There's really no major discussion on that either. Everyone feels that's something. So that will be supposedly coming forward. We'll go to public hearing and stuff. But that was the one thing that really struck me is it was right quick and everyone was on it. Term limits look like they'll probably come forward as well, and residency requirements. Not quite sure, playing off the state to see what they do. Everything else is, the reason I picked those are the ones that were unanimous. They were straight up unanimous. Term limits, there needs to be some further deep in discussion to figure out what might be proposed. Same with the residency. But like I said, nonpartisan was pretty cut and dry. I would like to recommend again to those at home listening and those in the audience that please come out. Our next meeting is Tuesday, April 15th at 6 o'clock, and we've actually extended it to 9 o'clock, 6 to 9 now, because that's how dedicated we are to this, getting it done. Last and not least,
Where at, Chris?
I'm sorry, at TCC, Wakulla.
I need to tell Matt, too.
Yeah, my apologies. And you notice it's on your page, and we have the page for this as well. We've had one hard vote. Well, by hard vote, I mean when you go through here, it says 10 or more. If they vote, it'll go forward. One hard vote. That was to keep the charter with revisions. So we will propose to you, we will keep a charter. We will make revisions to it, but we're going to walk away. We walked away the other night with that. It took getting the 3 meetings to get to that, but there was great discussion. But let me further clarify that. It was unanimous. Every single person there voted to keep the charter, identifying that there are some opportunities for making a better charter for this county. With that, any questions?
No, I think you were.
I have a question.
Well, not for me. I'm just related to Mr. Custer.
As relates to the 30%,
Yes, sir.
I assume you discussed that. How did the Charter Committee look at the 30%, which is 3 times higher than any other place in the state of Florida?
Well, I tell you, it would really be best suited if I didn't speak on that. It'd probably be best suited if Dave Edwards did, so that it didn't seem that I was spraying. But I'm going to do it because you're asking me. Here you have it. 30%. Everyone was agreeing 30% was a good number. We had someone that was not really in for it at the time after discussion, came back and said 30% across is good. Now, getting deeper into it, remember this is a straw ballot, that part right there. But what I thought a real highlight, and Chuck is still here, is the other night, we had a member that said, no, 30 is not really the way to go. But after the good discussion amongst the group, came back and said, I rescind my opinion, 30 is good to go. Now there's some other discussions going on. Does it need to be 30 across the board is one, but is it 30 in each district? Does it need to change that when it's voted on by the citizens, it's 60%? All that will come out later on. But right now, that's a straw ballot issue to come back and look at further.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
I must say, it's citizens in the county need to attend these meetings because they're very good debate, very respectful debate.
Yep.
And there's a lot of information that's being disseminated out that if you want to learn about your government and learn how your government works, you can come to these meetings and you'll learn a lot. And it's a really good group of folks.
So the fear that some members of the Charter Committee were anti-charter really didn't come to fruition then, did it?
Well, I would say, Commissioner Merritt, that, you know, in all good groups you need to have opposing views, and I would say there were opposing views. I personally, and folks here can attest, the first meeting, I tried to get it right there. Do we need to keep coming back, or are we going to have a charter?
You said there's a unanimous vote. to
That was
keep the
unanimous.
charter. Okay.
And my point being is, the first night we discussed looking at that vote, and there was some discussion on it. We weren't sure which way, so we just kind of held it off. The other night, we're third meeting in. We're spending hours of our time away from our family. So as the chairman, I thought it was incumbent on us to go ahead and just say, are we fishing or are we cutting bait? Let's decide right now. And it was unanimous that we want to keep a charter. We need to make some revisions.
I think it's telling that it took you that long to get to vote to keep the charter when the citizens of this county in an election voted to have a chartered county. I mean, that speaks to that there are people on that committee that are on that committee without respecting the wishes of the citizens of the county.
Citizens didn't vote unanimously, though, Howard, to get a charter.
They didn't,
So,
but
just
they...
just
but-
so you- just so
okay,
your
wait,
view-
let me finish talking right now. You know, when you have an election, it's not unanimous, and that's one of the things that's going on wrong in this whole country right now. When we have an election, we're supposed to have an election and get on with it, get past that point. Okay, we took it. Do the citizens of this county want a charter county or no? Okay, they wanted a charter county. They voted for a charter county. They didn't do it by 3 votes. They voted, and they had a legitimate election. I assume there's no fraud. And they voted, and they said, we want a charter county. Now, to spend that amount of time at the beginning of a charter review committee, which is supposed to make our charter better for our citizens, that to me is troubling.
Okay, let me clarify. Since you've opened the door, let me walk through it here. The first night I brought it up for, let's figure out, because there's no sense meeting if there's folks here that don't want to do it. If there's 10 people here that don't want to do it. The first night we didn't have all 15 members there. Okay, the second meeting we didn't bring it up. We just drove right on through. So it was the third meeting I brought it back. I'm sorry that your charter, our charter, the county's charter, says that we're tasked with deciding repeal or revise, repeal, or approve the way it is. Those are the 3 tasks we had at hand. To me, it's process of elimination. We were revising it. Folks said that it needs some change for better, so why are we going to sit here and discuss and not have just have a vote on repeal? The other night, that's where we were. There was no sense us going forward. I think you may not be understanding the dynamics. I wish you would come and you would see, and you'd have a better appreciation of how it's actually going down.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I could ask you this. There are people, you said, on the Charter Review Committee that would have voted for the repeal of the Charter Committee, but then decided to vote to keep the charter.
We never went to a hard vote on it. Never went to a hard vote. We have another meeting as well this month. We have the 15th and the 24th. Two more meetings this month, correct? 24th on Thursday, at the 24th at TCC, 6 to 9 as well. So please, I encourage all of you to come out. Anything? All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now to the...
Motion to approve consent.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve consent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. All right, we had item number 10 that was pulled. I believe, Commissioner Kessler, you pulled that item?
Yes, I did.
This agenda item, I'll get it started off, Dr. Kessler.
Yeah, appreciate that.
This agenda item seeks board approval to proceed with the award of the OBBT CEI RFQ 2014-7 and OBBT Construction ITB 2014-08, and authorize the chairman to sign contracts and approve for staff to seek board ratification of awards and execution of contracts due to environmental permit expiration date.
CEI, what is
Construction inspection.
construction inspection?
Yes. Required by the federal law.
This is for the, of course, we all knew what that stood for, of course. but
We didn't know.
Citizens at home.
I have a motion, or you want to talk about, I'm sorry.
You pulled the item,
Well, yeah,
Commissioner
we can
Kessler.
do it. No, we can have a motion. I'll make a motion to approve, but I want discussion.
Second.
Yes, we have a motion made and seconded. Okay, now discussion. Commissioner Kessler, you pull the item.
So, the question that citizens along this section of the project have is the placement of the trail. And I was told this afternoon, after that pre-meeting conference, that this section is actually going to be on the north side of Surf Road. Is that your understanding of it now as well?
That is correct. I think there's a small section that has to dart back over to the south but come back due to archaeological finds. So, but the general projection is north. Right. Right.
Okay, so the vast majority on Surf Road will be
on the north side.
On the north side, which is the side of the road that has the least amount of driveways that the trail would have to cross.
Yes, sir.
Airport side of the road.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
I don't go there. Okay, so that's, I just wanted that the people out there that are concerned about this section of the trail, that the trail is going to be on Surf Road in its great majority on the north side of Surf Road. Okay, and that was the point.
Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Louis?
Yes, Commissioners. The first planning and zoning item is for final plat to replat lots 25 and lot 32 of Bay Park subdivision.
Motion to approve.
Second. Hold on.
You beat me to it, Howard.
We have to do our ex parte disclosures. If there's any that you need to disclose, any written communications or verbal communications that you've had, please put them on the record.
None.
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 No.
None.
Is there anybody here who's going to speak on this item? Please stand up to be sworn.
Smart people.
Do you swear or affirm?
Yep.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and second. Do we have any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
I just have a
Hold on.
question. I asked Louis a question earlier today and just wanted to see if he found out an answer. From what I see, 38 Wakulla Circle has two lots in the legal description on the property appraiser's website, lot 32 and lot 33. Our description here says that we're combining only 25 and lot 32. There's no mention of 33.
That's correct. They are two separate lots. They're just combined for tax purposes under one tax ID number. So we are just combining the lots 25 and 32.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, next, Louis.
All right, this next item is for the application to close or abandon a portion of Magnolia Street in the Magnolia Gardens subdivision. This is for a portion of roadway that is platted but is not built. It contains a pond, and the applicants are...
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and second. Heather, do we have to?
No.
Okay.
This is just approving their ability to file an application.
And I
that
don't
will come back to
typically
you.
support things like closing right away, but in this case, there's literally a sinkhole in the middle of the right of way. So it's not like we could have put a lift station there or a stormwater pond or so. And this may actually protect it a little more because this homeowner could then go fence it off or whatever to keep people.
I'm in agreement with you, Randy, that this would protect it even more. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next to general business.
Yes, this agenda item number 19 requests board direction regarding the application of reduction of forgiveness of code enforcement lien CEB LR 009 and the code enforcement board case CE 2013.
I'll make a motion to reduce the code enforcement lien down to the county's hard cost, which is $2,070.04.
I second the motion.
We have a motion made and second. Do we have any, I don't have any citizens speak on it. Do we have any Any commissioner discussion?
Get my motion, Howard?
No, I didn't catch.
I made a motion to reduce the fine down to the county's hard cost of $2,070.04. At least to get our money back. And the reason why I made that motion is because the next item after this, or next item down the road, that's exactly what was done, is the code enforcement reduced it down to a hard cost. We don't want to lose money, but I think if the goal's accomplished, then.
Well, this is the one that had the code enforcement recommendation.
Of 3,000.
Okay, so what would be the opposition to that?
Because I don't know where they got that number from. On a later item, they made a motion to reduce it down to the county's hard cost. I asked Heather, and Heather that really couldn't give me it was almost arbitrary, wasn't it?
I wasn't at that code enforcement meeting, so I don't have any knowledge about it whatsoever.
It'd be helpful if Ron was here, but I'm just trying to stay consistent with what we're recommending we do later.
I'd like to know I'd like to respect what the code enforcement brings to us, and if they have a recommendation and if there's a reason to back up that, I would like to know it so that I could vote properly on it. So lacking that information, I don't know about.
We have a code enforcement member here.
We do have one code enforcement member. If it's okay with the commission, I'll invite him up.
Sure.
Steve Cushman.
Oh, sorry, Steve. No disrespect.
I believe the case that you guys are talking about, there's the two different ones, is our stand on the code board is to always try to collect the county's hard cost. That's something we started about a year and a half ago with all the fines, whether it's the $150 in administrative fees or particular fines out there. The one that was $3,000 was brought up. There was someone there to speak on that case, and there was discussion amongst the board, and that's what it settled off on, was the $3,000. So it's a little bit above, I believe, above the county hard cost. But
I guess what we're asking is what's the reason?
Can I ask
Yes,
what's the
yes.
difference between this one and the one later where you voted to reduce it down to just the hard cost? Was the 3,000 just an arbitrary number, or was it we want it 3,000 because of this reason, this situation, or this whatever?
Well, not to be argumentative, but some of the reason that happens is because we have sent up other ones in the past that you guys overrode, where we reduced them down to hard cost, or actually even maybe sometimes below hard cost, and you completely overrode them, put them back to the full amount. I believe one of them was one that Dallas Marshall did. I think there was a $7,500 or $8,500 lien on that piece of property, and we reduced it down, and you guys overrode it back to the original amount because of the circumstances of that case. So we try to look at them on a case-by-case basis and make a decision. I remember that case. There was discussion and there was input from the property owner on that piece of property. So that's how we came to that. I know there was a split decision on the board about it that night, whether to hold it at the full amount or reduce it down to hard costs, and there was a negotiated amount to that $3,000.
So that number was arrived at basically through negotiation.
Yes.
Because half the board was like, we want to charge you the whole amount, and the other half was like, we want to reduce all the way down, and they said, we'll take whatever deal we can get from you guys at the time, basically.
Right.
Okay.
And that's based on the history of you guys overriding or running with whatever we did, and the
They almost
majority of
took
those.
a plea deal.
Right.
Well, my motion will stand then. I don't think it's stepping on their toes.
And I think what happened in that case, when we did increase it above the recommendation, is because when it went to the code enforcement board, they didn't have a full breakdown of the actual hard cost. So they made a recommendation, but the hard cost was higher than what they were provided at that meeting. And so we made a decision to take it back up to the lien amount, which still was not the full hard cost, but it covered the maximum that we could based on the lien.
I think in this case, and probably the case later, the goals met, the property was cleaned up, it was made safer, and the county's not, the taxpayers aren't any money out of pocket. So, my motion will stand.
So your motion, just to reiterate, is to go from is to reduce it from 6,300 to 2,700?
No, to the hard cost number that was given to us by staff, which is $2,070.04. Right, Heather?
$2,070.04.
That's attorney time, that 4 cents. That was that was 2 sessions of her 2 cents worth.
I'll throw in the 4 cents.
Okay. So maybe it's Heather I have to direct this question to. are there cases that we have that that we don't recover anything from?
Yes.
And so this issue of bringing it down to the hard cost of what it costs us is somewhat off kilter, because we're getting ourselves in the hole if we keep on reducing these liens down to the hard cost for this individual case, when there are other cases out there that drive us into the hole. So I think that when I think $6,500 going down to whatever it was, $3,000, I think that's a reasonable place to go to, and have something in there where we're not, because right now on the system that we may have spelled out, we're going to continually be in the hole.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, Howard, but I'd like it to be consistent and fair. So if we're going to say from here on out, we're going to charge 120% of the hard cost to cover that extra, that's fine. But we need to treat everybody the same. And the reason why I was asking is the one later they recommended to go down to the hard cost. And it just, to me, it wouldn't seem fair to make this one not the hard cost and the next one the hard cost. I do agree with what you're saying, though, and if we want to bring back a policy that says the minimum is going to be hard cost plus 10%, then I'll go along with that.
Do we have a policy now? Did we vote on the policy to have it hard cost?
No, you did not. It's just been staff's recommendations to at least try to recover the amount of time and expenses that the county put into prosecuting the case.
And if you wanted to bring an agenda item or somebody else wanted to make that 120% of that, I think I would support that as a minimum.
Would that put us in any kind of difficult situation with having these fines being levied when it becomes an actual vote that, don't worry about it, you're only going to be 120% of the actual cost?
No, because those are just for consideration. I mean, you have a full lien amount. You could foreclose and go after the full amount. On most cases, there are some exceptions where you're not able to foreclose.
Homestead property, for example.
Yeah, or there's maybe practical reasons why you wouldn't if
It's not worth it.
Exactly. We generally will bring back a recommendation for purposes of compromise and settlement in two situations. One, where property owners come in and ask for a lien reduction, or two, where we have a matter that we're looking at foreclosing on and we're trying to settle it.
Do banks typically pay the entire amount of the lien?
No, they do not.
Do they also ask for a reduction?
Yes. And so we like to have as much flexibility as possible. Internally, our rule is that we won't bring back a recommendation that takes less than the hard cost, but there are some exceptions to that. If we see a technical defect in the lien, we may bring back a recommendation that's less than that. We've had one recently where it was foreclosed and they failed to name us, but they could have renamed us and gone back through and re-foreclosed, and at that point we did bring back a recommendation to you to accept, I think it was a few $100s. It gave you something, whereas you'd probably get nothing if we had dug our heels in. So there's going to be exceptions that we're going to need if we do a policy.
So you'd recommend leaving the system the way it is right now?
Yes.
But it would be appropriate if we decided to set a policy that says we can lower it to X, but no lower than hard cost plus 10%. Right now, there's kind of an unwritten policy that says don't lower it lower than hard cost.
Yeah, I mean, you could give us direction that we'd like to see you for future strive.
But
now, keep in mind, I just, if you're going to give me this direction tonight, I already have some of these in the the pipeline, and I want to throw those out. They're coming back to you at the next.
But that might not be the smartest thing to do, given what you said earlier about some other situations.
Yeah, no, there's definitely exceptions and there's probably some that I'm not even thinking of that will come across.
Okay, do we have any further discussion?
I guess maybe just the other side of the argument, and I'm with you on it, but basically what you're describing would be running it like a business. If I'm selling tomatoes and a certain amount go bad, I've got to make a certain profit, and I pass that along to my consumers. I think I think it was Chuck Hess that said government should never be run like a business. So we, but in this case, if we're going to go 20% above that, now we're offsetting that cost to someone else. And so, you know, we're asking this citizen to cover the cost of someone else who did not pay. And so I just think we need to think about that and talk about that. I don't know if that's a good policy, but I certainly understand it from a trying to break even standpoint.
Well, not necessarily, Ralph, because in this case, and I don't want to beat this to the blue in the face, but the lien was $6,000, and we're saying we're still going to reduce it for you, but we're only going to reduce it to cost plus 20. That's not what we're talking about. I'm just an example. So they're not paying for someone else. They're not getting as big a reduction as they would have gotten.
Right.
So it's not like they got to pull money out of their pocket. Instead of giving us $6,000, they only got to give us $3,200.
Because we have the legal ability
have
to
the lien
collect
on
the
it
full
already,
$6,000. I agree.
It's not
I
a
agree, and
perfect
I don't think it's a bad way to go.
I think whatever we do, we need to be consistent and do the same for
Yes,
each case.
yes, exactly.
You know, to follow the same process and procedure as a matter of fairness. And we, even though we haven't put it in stone, but we've set a precedence with the last few cases, which I think is a very good precedent, that we have worked out a lot of these old cases by just reducing it down to the hard cost, and even allowing the citizens a time frame to pay that hard cost back without having to do it all at one lump sum. It's something that's working, and I think we need to just stay consistent. Have any more discussion? All right, so your motion is to reduce it from 6,300 to 2,070 and the hard cost. Okay.
And I second that.
And Jerry seconded. Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you. Next agenda item, request board approval to consider code lien reduction and installment payment agreement with the owner of property located on Meadow Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
The next agenda item, request board approval to accept the Department of Environmental, DEP, the Recreation Trails Program, RTP.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion made and second. Is there any discussion with most commissioners? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes.
It's easier than I thought it would be.
The next agenda item is request board approval ratification to terminate negotiating the transfer of the housing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion made and second. Is there any discussion amongst commissioners?
If you don't mind, just
Okay,
let me explain for the
yes.
public. What this means is because there's a lot of folks that, you know, we have our share of folks that need the help. What this is we had initially we were going to move our voucher system, Section 8 voucher system to subsidies to Tallahassee, and they were going to assign them to Wakulla County, but our folks would have to go to Tallahassee and work through the Tallahassee Housing Authority. We could not get an agreement that would protect our citizens here in Wakulla County that needed and used this service. So therefore, we said, and even working with HUD it just wouldn't work, so we brought it back in-house and made an agreement to move forward with our existing company. We're still going to look for other organizations to take it, but at this point in time, we're going to bring it back.
Same cost?
Same thing, nothing changes.
Okay.
We thought we could get a better plan, but at the end of the day, we were scared we would lose it and do a disservice to our citizens.
Okay, we have a motion made and second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Next one.
Okay. Number 29. This agenda item seeks board approval of a legal services agreement with Neighbors Giblin as requested by USDA to proceed with the county's loan grant application for improvements to the county wastewater treatment facilities.
Yeah, could we just expand on that a little bit?
Sure. This is we're in the process, as you know, we have applied for, we have notified our environmental notices went out for our USDA grant loan program. That's currently in this advertising period. As part of the grant loan package, we have to have an executed legal agreement that if we get the grant loan program through USDA, we have to have that done in order to, that's just one of the boxes that are checked. If we don't get it, or we don't accept it, we don't have to use this legal services agreement goes away.
Any further discussion?
I don't think we had a second.
Second.
We have a motion made and second. All in favor of the motion?
I do have one comment.
Go ahead, sir.
I was prepared to vote against this tonight, but I was assured that, and the reason I would vote against it is just because we haven't seen the terms of the grant or the loan. And I was assured that voting tonight just allows us to move forward with that process, and those terms will come back. And so, you know, I'm going to vote for this, but I want to make sure that we have all those terms, and I was assured that nothing we're doing tonight is binding us to spend that money. We'll have that decision again down the road when the terms of the grant come forward. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Exactly. In fact, USDA representative will actually make that to you guys at a board meeting.
Very good.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Let's see. Okay, the commissioner items, I think, see, okay, Commissioner Kessler, your item, you said was pulled from the agenda, so we would go to Commissioner Merritt.
My item.
Your item.
We have a family enclave. It's an ordinance, Heather, right now that allows, if you're an elderly or a sick person and you live in your house, you were allowed to move a mobile home on that property to have somebody live in it. So we changed it to allow you to have a RV there. But a situation has come up, and I don't know if it's repeated, where it would be reversed, whereas the person that is sick would need to live in the RV, and the person that's well and taken care of lives in the house. But the way it's worded, if you read the handout I gave you, according to Heather and just the way it was written, they wouldn't be allowed to do that. And I think what I'm proposing would be to allow the person needing care to live in either one. Wouldn't violate the...
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is.
Second.
Thank you.
We have a motion made second. Any further discussion with the commissioners? Okay, I thank you, Randy, for bringing this up. I think it's a very good thing that will solve an issue. Anyway, so we get motion made and second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, Randy, your other item's been pulled from the agenda, so we'll go to Commissioner Moore.
Okay, my agenda item requests board to approve to pursue a land-to-land exchange and land purchase with the National Forest Service for a county recreational park. It sort of seems like the third time is the one that works. I've been trying to get a large amount of land for a recreation park in the north part of the county for 2 or 3 years. I had one, it fell apart. I had two, it fell apart, and this is number 3. And it can't get any better than this, because the federal government, the Forest Service, came to the county and asked the county if they would be willing to exchange the property that is in the horse park for the property across from Walmart. In basically an even exchange, the Horse Association would still be able to use the facility under the same terms, but working with the Forest Service. So there would be no change in that relationship. The thing that we would obtain, though, is where the red light is at Walmart. If you come across the street from Walmart, just right there behind those first 2 or 3 lots is 200 acres of good property. And of course we would do our due diligence to make sure that we can use it. But we would be exchanging or swapping, or however they want to call it, we would exchange the property that we have in the forest. They want to get contiguous in the forest property for this piece of property. In my opinion, this piece of property is an extremely valuable piece of property.
Second.
We have a motion made and second. I've got one citizen to speak on this, and the commissioners can speak. Ms. Dana Peck.
Diana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. Excuse me if I'm wrong, but I believe County Administrator David Edwards worked on this land deal with, and not land deal, let me correct that, land swap, not costing the county money, land swap. While Mr. Moore was working on a land deal for acreage that would have made maybe 40 soccer fields, which the county doesn't seem to really need, and drive the county into debt, for starters, for $500,000 and another $500,000 on top of that to put equipment on that 150 some odd or 70 some odd acres. This is like someone coming in after the hard work is done and taking credit for the job when he really didn't do the work. Just want to point that out.
Okay, do I have any discussion amongst commissioners?
I'm not quite sure what we're voting on here. Is this...
What this does, excuse me, what this does is this gives us the, to move forward with both DEP as well as the National Forest. We got to have something from the board. What this would do is give us approval from the board to move those discussions further.
Not any commissioner.
That's right. Move these discussions further because we can only take it so far before they ask, has the board approved to pursue this? And that's, naturally as things come back, it'll we'll come back to the board any hurdles that are there. So that's what this is requesting.
Okay, I just, okay.
I'm in full favor of this by the fact that we will acquire the land that we were wanting. We will acquire the amount of land we were wanting to acquire in order to better our recreation system in the future, but it will be done in a way that it will not cost the taxpayers up front. It'll be even swap.
Further protecting all the wetlands that are on the property the county owns right now too.
We're all about wetlands.
Oh yes.
Vote, please.
So
it's about half wetlands.
On this piece of land, which we're going to have the horsemen remain where they are, but there's land additionally that the horsemen are using that will become part of the...
It's a total of the land that we own is currently 160 acres. Of that, currently the Horsemen's Association uses approximately 2 acres of that, 2 maybe 3 acres of that. And the rest of it, they use some of it for riding trails, but the majority of that land is one big huge wetland. So that's what, and they will continue to stay on that track. And all we'll do is, as the way that the federal government explained it, all they'll do is they'll just take over our agreement with the Horsemen's Association.
Got it.
I think if he could work it out, this is I hate to say this, a hell of a deal.
This is a win-win for everyone.
So when you first brought this up, Mr. Edwards, there was a remark made, and I don't remember who made the remark, and at that time we were dealing with a private land deal. But the remark was made that this would take an act of the legislation, this would be impossible to do, and the land deal, I guess, continued until it fell apart. But have you received any kind of input that would indicate that this is not an impossible dream?
No, I mean, realize this, we are working with the federal government, so they're going to not move at lightning speed. But what was encouraging was they came to us first, we went back to them again, but then they actually took the initiative and they actually brought the deal back to us again. So we but understand, this is going to take this will take a while. It's nothing that's going to happen overnight. But they do want the property. They want the 160 acres worse than they want that.
It's almost, Art Hunter, if you're familiar with it, it's almost landlocked by national forest on 4 sides.
Right, and while the sort of jokes were going on, we're all about wetlands, the forest recognizes the value of those wetlands and are willing to trade uplands, a lot of uplands.
I wish they'd do a lot of that. We got a lot of marsh they can have.
Okay.
I just got a card handed to me by by Chuck Hess to also speak on this item, but I also wanted to remind Chuck that at the very beginning of the meeting, I asked if any citizen had anything they wanted to speak on.
I
Please fill
understand,
out
and
the
I
card.
wasn't going to
So
speak on it. I just wanted to
Chuck,
clarify a few things.
I'm going to allow you to speak, but I want to ask you in the future, please fill out the card before the agenda item.
I
begins.
try to. This will take a lot longer than you think, simply because of the process, the NEPA process for the Forest Service. The one thing you can do to probably expedite it, make it easier, is if you take the land that's, I think it's east of East Ivan. If you don't try to get into land west of East Ivan, because what the Forest Service is trying to do is consolidate their burn boundaries. And if you try to get to make your numbers right, you get west of East Ivan, you'll screw it up, and it'll also make the NEPA process much more complicated. So if
And
you
you're
just
right.
go for the land for the east of East Ivan, this could work pretty quickly. Thank
We
you.
also get into more wetlands if we get west of
If you go
East
west,
Ivan.
you're going to get into wetlands, you're going to
All
hold
the ponds and sinkholes.
a lot of issues will come in. But the land east of East Ivan is, this would be a functional thing
Pretty good.
to work.
Yes, that was my rec part, Randy. That land
All right.
west of East Ivan.
Smith Creek's got a little bigger one, but we won't get into that right now.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion, Commissioner? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, the county attorney items, I see where your item's been tabled to the April 21st meeting. Do you have any other items?
I do. I just have a couple comments. My item will come back. It's a lien reduction. I wanted to mention one thing on the code lien foreclosures in general. Since we have started pursuing them, your county staff has remarked that property is coming into compliance much quicker. We have had code lien pieces of property where there's code liens. We've had people that we haven't even pursued yet come and offer to pay. So we are seeing significant progress in these items, and we're able to settle a lot of them and get a lot of the county's hard costs recovered, and we're starting to get these things in the door at a more rapid pace. So you guys did a good job by pursuing those. Two, I just wanted to touch a little bit about your decorum policy and your rules of debate. A motion to call the question is a perfectly fine motion to end debate. I do want to caution you guys in the future that when one board member is speaking and they have the floor, we really need to try to not interrupt each other. I know that we're a relaxed board, and that's fine. But when somebody has the floor and they're interrupted, they haven't technically yielded the floor, so we should probably try to wait till people wrap up their remarks before we even make those kind of subsidiary motions.
So we can't wait till they take a break?
No, they can take a break when they, it's been deemed that they've yielded the floor when they take a break.
Well, I didn't want to, not to beat this to death, but I was trying not to interrupt Howard mid-sentence. I tried to wait till he, my point was
And
that
I
it wasn't
saw
going
that. I
anywhere.
did see that. That's why I didn't really bring this up strongly then, because it was sort of a gray area and a judgment call. But I just did want to, there is a provisions in your policy that talk about the rules of debate, and you guys just might want to, so that we don't have miscommunications or misunderstandings in the future.
So the proper way to do it would have been to let Howard finish speaking, however long that may have been, and then make a motion for previous question. Okay?
I think so.
That would have never happened.
All right, is
Ma'am.
is it all you have?
I got to get you a copy of my certificate now, my ethics certificate.
Hey, Heather, do you have any other items? Okay, David, do you have any county manager
Yes,
items?
I have quite a few. First off, I'd like to start out by saying we need to keep in our thoughts and prayers J.D. Johnson. He is in San Antonio. He is still recovering, but he is his family says he will not be coming back. He's due to health reasons. He's still in recovery. Also, Rod Rebel, he is at TMH. He is very sick. We all need to keep him in our thoughts and prayers as well. And if we can, he needs them. So, and as you know, Rod Rebel was our facilities person as well as the building inspector, and he is officially went on. So anyway, that's
And
that's
interim building official.
Yes, an interim building official. He really done a great. He and JD have done a great job and great service to our county. So we need to listen.
I want you to also add that just keeping there to the family of Johnny Ross that also
That's right,
know,
and
was
Johnny.
a long time
That's exactly right. That was the
building-
next one. Johnny Ross passed away last week, and we need to keep the family in our thoughts and prayers as well. Now, going to our reorganization last week, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me. I believe it's been such a long week. May have been last week, but we reorganized our code enforcement division, pulled code enforcement into the building department as well as planning and zoning, and the reason. One is for budget reasons this was done, and we're also what our plan is we're going to run it this way for about 6 months, and then we're going to fold it more into planning and zoning mid next year is our current plan. So we're working through those logistics. We're meeting with Heather's law firm next week on this as far as trying to get everything all other things cleaned up. We appreciate everything that Dina Jones and Jamie Bates have done for our county. They were great employees. It's just it's a position of where we are today and some of the issues that we have within the county that we need to we had to reorganize. This was actually one of when I first came here, I had a list, as any manager would, a list of reorganization of structures that you could do, and this was my last one, and I waited to the very point where I felt I absolutely had to pull it, and this is part of that structure. So therefore, this is the last of my reorganizations that I had initially planned to take part.
I want to reiterate the job the employees did that are unfortunately
Yes.
losing their job.
Yes,
They did
it's
a
very
good service to the
unfortunate.
county, and Jamie really stepped up to the plate several
Right.
times as the interim planning director and so forth.
Right. Next is our FEMA update. We have received the letter from FEMA, which basically gives us till the mid-September that we'll have our actual map updates then. So therefore, just to let the citizens know that any new structures that are going to be permitted will have to be permitted based upon the new FEMA flood map.
Mud map would probably
That
be
may have been
better.
a rather apropos, huh?
Blood flaps, yeah.
Flood map, and so therefore that has taken effect officially with the issue of this letter, even though the maps we have not gotten to us. So just to let you know, that's not good news either. Also, commissioners, we will be bringing back next meeting on veteran services. We'll be bringing back an agenda item for you guys to discuss the future of how we want to proceed with the veteran services. So we'll be bringing you some choices back on that, as well as the library and parks and recreation. I've asked those folks to, they're going to be giving us with the next budget process, they're going to give us a budget, full funding, half funding, and then a possible shutdown just to have, and just in case we need those measures. Also, lift station, we're going to be bringing back to you the lift station at Hickory Park. It's $350,000 plus that has went down. We've got it patched back up now, but we've got to actually put a liner and new pumps in, and therefore, and also maybe reroute some force mains. It's going to be a big job. We'll be bringing the engineering back for that next week, and that'll actually have to go out to bid. We're not going to be able to do that in-house. It's too big of a job. And then also, right after that, we're going to have to do lift station 3. It's about a $75,000 job. The lift station is actually crumbling and disintegrating into where it's in, which one is that? That's Surf Road? That's what I thought, Surf Road. So anyway, that just gives you an update of what we're doing. Also, commissioners, we're doing our mid-year update, our mid-year meeting. We've had our quarterlies, and this is our mid-year update with each department financials. That'll be next week. I'll let you guys know if any of you want to drop in. You can drop in at any point in time. We'll be meeting with each department, talking about where we stand to date, how we're looking to go into the future of the remainder of the year, as well as we'll talk about next year's budget with each department manager. So I'll let y'all know when that is, and you're more than welcome to come and sit in and join us one at a time. So, so anyway, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, next I have citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens for the second? Okay, our first citizen is Rick Groves.
Good evening, Rick Groves, 137 Spring River Lane. I'm an individual that's being adversely affected by the ordinance for wetlands. I'm not a developer. I've got a lot on Wakulla River with a small house on stilts, 1,000 square feet. The buffer zone, the 35-foot line, goes right through the middle of my house. And the way the house is designed with this no-touch zone that's in effect now, I cannot even put a fire escape on the side of my deck that I would need to have it on. I'm a fourth-generation Floridian. My wife's a fifth-generation Floridian, and we love it here. We bought the house a couple of years ago and plan to retire here in a year or so. We come down just about three weekends a month, usually 4 or 5 days, and enjoy the wetlands that we're able to be on and enjoy the river. So I started thinking about why I'm paying taxes on this property that I can't use. Why am I being charged taxes on the wetland buffer that I can't use? And remembered that Florida, the state of Florida, had programs, and I think it's been in effect at least 25 years, where there's legislation to protect wetlands, but they fund legislation to buy those wetlands, to buy those protected areas. This one that's in current use is Florida Forever. The one before that I think was Preservation 2000. And they went through the land, and I talked to Northwest Florida Water Management today, and they have about over 200,000 acres now that they've purchased, and most of the funds now are just going to management of those acreages. And so my concern is I'm paying taxes on property that I can't use, where the state of Florida has, I don't know if it's a legitimate analogy, but they're paying for their property that they want to try to preserve, whereas the county isn't, as far as I can see. Thank you.
Okay, our next citizen to speak is Chris Russell.
You take it over and Chuck's job.
All right. Nice guy here.
We're not going to get in dialogue with citizens to speak.
I just want to bring up a couple things. Yeah, the FEMA maps are coming. I think we only had, I don't think we won against them, to be honest. I don't think we fought hard. That's my personal opinion. They had some junk science. I can say, with the help of Louis and your building and all that, and a lot of work on the weekends, I was able to get my appeal done, and they granted it. So I'm happy about that. I wish more citizens would have done that. You're going to hear complaining next fall, and they were warned. April 10th, this Thursday, at the Senior Citizen Center, there's going to be a meet and greet open for all citizens in the county. It's hosted by the Republican Executive Committee. We're going to have Will Dance come down and speak about some of your constitutional rights. There's going to be some great door prizes free. If you like to hunt, you should show up for door prizes. If you like to fish, you should show up. If you go to church, you should show up. If you want pocket constitutions, you should show up. There's a lot of great door prizes. Should be a great time just to hang out. I spoke a little while ago as the chairman of the Charter Review Committee. Now, this committee, you know, it's a requirement to go forward. 0.1% of the citizens in this county, 0.1%, volunteered to be on that committee. 0.1%. Okay? So, to give up the time to do that says a lot of their effort about what they're doing and how much they care. So, you know, with all due respect, when I come up here and I give you the review of it and what's going on, I really don't appreciate, you know, when you're getting loud at me and you're targeting towards me and getting off on tangents. That's not me. I'm here just to provide you an update. Nothing personal. I'm giving you the whole deal here. I welcome you to come so you have a better aspect of what's going on. That way you won't feel so, I guess, inclined to reach out and stress out on me. Maybe it had something to do with what Ms. Heather said earlier. I don't know. So here's what I thought. Maybe there's a commissioner that's stressed. So I got a little time left, and I thought I'd just sit here and, I'm sorry, citizens be heard. Just sit here a second and maybe meditate and breathe deep in and out. Maybe everybody calm down, because, you know, our county is just dividing and dividing. So I'm going to meditate. You're welcome to meditate with me while I have a little time here. That's what we should do. We should go ahead and just take deep breaths.
Who was your speaker?
We're not going to get in
Thank you.
dialogue with citizens to be heard.
Sorry.
And I do want to stress that when, you know, during the citizens to be heard section, we won't get in dialogue either jokingly or whatever. The next speaker is Dana Peck.
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. This is a really serious accusation I'm about to make, but I feel pretty compelled to make it. Twice now, your commission chairman has indicated by his very own words that there is some kind of communication going on among commissioners before this meeting. And I, for one, I imagine you know this, would like to point out that that's not okay. And by saying that's not okay, I mean it is a crime. It is something for which you can be prosecuted and go to jail. It is not okay to communicate with each other directly or through a mouthpiece or an intermediary. And tonight, when the commission chairman indicated that there had been some communication going on, the actions of this commission following that seemed to reinforce it, that there was a scripted procedure here that was conducted after your statement was made. It is a crime. And if you're confused about what I'm talking about, it would not, for example, be okay for Commissioner Merritt to give information to the county administrator, who then would give that information to any other commissioner here, so you all could organize your efforts. That would be a crime. It is a violation of the Sunshine Law.
Okay, Ed Bremner.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate the time to come up here. I just want to reiterate something that someone else has already got up and talked about, and that is that Thursday night, April the 10th, Jerry, I think you were going to ask who that speaker was again. That speaker is going to be Will Dance, who is currently on 93.3 each morning, and you can hear him. He's going to be talking about the Constitution and some of the constitutional problems that we're having in this country. In fact, tonight I heard several people get up and talk about the Constitution, and they talked about it in ways that just aren't correct. So anyway, that is going to be happening Thursday night from 6 to 8. There are going to be some door prizes. Earlier it was just sort of hinted what those door prizes are. I will tell you, you have to be present to win. You will be given a raffle ticket, or no, I don't know what you call them, but you'll be given a ticket when you walk in, and we're going to be drawing from the people who are there, and you must be present to win. We're going to be giving away 2 rifles. We're going to be giving away 2 rods and reels. And we're going to be giving away a couple of Bibles, and there may be some other things that we're going to be giving away, but you must be there to win this thing. If you're ever interested in winning something, the odds are pretty good when there's only let's say 100 people there, 150 people there, and we're going to be giving away these kind of prizes, and you must be present to win. I welcome you to come. It'll be a good time. There will be some snacks and drinks. It won't be something and it's free. You can come and eat a few snacks and have a couple of drinks. It probably won't be enough for a meal unless you really overdo the snack thing. All right, thank you much. See you Thursday.
Did he say you must be present to win?
Our final speaker is Chuck Hess.
Goodness gracious.
First and last.
Yeah, I got to be nice today.
this goes back to the discussion on wetlands, and you know, I've been a supporter. But Mr. Merritt, I've been coming to these meetings for well over 10 years, and it's the first time anybody's called into debate and interrupted somebody to do that. I was really disappointed to see that. It was, not only was it inappropriate, it stifles communication in the county, and you wouldn't want to be on that side of that side of the issue. I was disappointed in you in doing that. Thank you.
Okay, that's our final citizens to speak. Okay, normally we start at one end and we work the other, but there's something I want to address right off the bat. I want to address the comment that was made by Ms. Dana Peck. Okay, I will sit here and tell you that I have had no part of anything that was illegal. I have no part of anything that was scripted, and for you to come to the podium and make that accusation towards me, I'm very offended at that. Okay, I tried my best to do everything above board. I'm very offended that you would come and make an accusation that I'm doing something illegal. All right, I totally reject that, and I deny that accusation. Okay. The next thing that I want to say is earlier in the meeting, Commissioner Kessler said that I made a misstatement, and I didn't. Okay, I stood by my statement. I asked Heather Encinosa, our attorney. I asked her if we had voted the way that Commissioner Kessler wanted us to vote, then the ordinance that's going to be on the ballot in November would automatically have been voted in tonight by default. And according to Heather Encinosa, if it got voted in tonight by default, then it would not have went to the ballot. So whenever I said that the vote that these four commissioners made tonight, okay, will allow this to continue to go on ahead for the citizens to vote on in November. Okay, I don't agree with that ordinance in November. I'm going to vote against it whenever it goes there. I don't agree with the language. But at the same time, for 6 months, there were citizens that went door to door and told everybody that me and 3 other commissioners were trying to keep this thing from going to ballot. But if we'd have voted the way that Commissioner Kessler and others tonight wanted us to vote, Commissioner Kessler and others would have gotten their way tonight by default, and it wouldn't even have went to ballot. And that day was okay with that, but I wasn't. And so I just want to say I did not make a misstatement. I stand by my statement, and I've been verified to be correct by the county attorney. Now, I'll start with Commissioner Merritt, and we'll work our way this way.
Well, can I comment on one of the things you just said?
Okay, well, I'll start with Commissioner Kessler.
Well, because it relates to what you just said again. You can't claim to be enabling the people to vote on something when you've already made the people go out there and collect petitions. They requested of you to put that on the ballot yourselves so that the citizens can vote on it.
And they are going to vote, Commissioner
The
Kessler.
board refused that. They had to go out there and do the work. So don't claim that you've done something to allow the citizens to vote on this issue. That is not right.
But that's exactly what happened tonight. You're using a play of words, Commissioner Kessler. That's
Did
exactly
you
what
support
you're
the
doing.
citizens when they came to you and asked you to put this on the ballot?
I didn't sign the petition.
No, before the petition even existed, before there was a glimmer of a petition even starting.
Mm-hmm.
Way back when the board was talking about eliminating the wetlands ordinance and the local wetland protections, the citizens asked you to put this on the ballot. They asked the board to put it on the ballot.
Some citizens, Howard.
It was
not
some
these
citizens.
Well, I'm going to go back and look at the minutes of this meeting. I think we'll find that this board did not support that.
I agree, but it was some
Okay, so the-
citizens, not these citizens.
No, and I agree. But the board took action by not allowing the citizens
Agreed.
to have that on the ballot and did not allow the citizens to vote on it. So don't claim now that you're helping the citizens.
Commissioner, well, I'm going to keep on saying that tonight, the action that happened tonight, the vote that we made will allow this to go ahead and be on the ballot in November. But if we'd have voted your way, then it would have passed by default, and I was not going to allow that to happen. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I'd like to comment on this as well, that there's 5 commissioners sitting up here. There's only 1 commissioner sitting up here that voted for the charter. The charter has a provision to allow us to move it forward. or if we do not, to allow a petition process. They're both valid legal things that you had a role in. You didn't fight to remove that out of there. That was there. That was a provision that was in there. And so that moved forward, and I believe it was adopted. You voted for the charter as it stood to allow that. Now, we didn't think that that was the proper step to move forward. We never once had any power nor desire to not give the citizens their right to vote. They executed a valid part of the charter. Great job. You got your 30%. Fantastic. You worked hard. I certainly saw many of you everywhere. So you exercised a valid part of our charter. But you got 30% of the vote. Tonight, you ask us to go ahead and adopt it. Forget the other part in the charter that still allows 100% of the people to vote. Now you want to make a decision based on 30% to sign the petition. 4 of us voted tonight to allow 100% of the registered voters to vote whether or not they want to keep this wetlands. There never has been, and there never will be a vote here for us to suppress the rights of the citizens. That was a mechanism that you chose in order to gather the petitions. And so now the citizens will have that right to vote. I hope that they vote no. I hope they realize the risk that you're going to put us in if they do vote yes. But regardless of the outcome, we will deal with it. It will not be the end of the world, and they will have their right to vote.
They will be in, Mr. Chairman, responding to that question, they will be in no risk if this board doesn't take further action. And I think that's what some of the citizens were speaking to. If there's going to be a problem created, it can only now be created by this board. And as far as my recollection again, this board voted not to put that item on the ballot, and that's what prompted the citizens to have to go out and get these petitions. As far as 30% of the vote, I think that we're missing the point again about what 30% really represents. It's a huge number. It's not 10%, and it's not 5% or 6% like other counties have. And someone said that sometimes the number or the percentage of people that show up for an entire election, it's a huge number, and it shouldn't be taken, looked at lightly. But there are also things that was said throughout the discussion on the wetlands that are misleading and may be wrong, and I think very wrong. And those deal with takings. Again, we have we're not taking away anyone's property with the wetlands. It's the same as any buffer setback in our building department. It says, here's what you can and cannot do in this area. You can't put your house right up against your property line if you're in a residential district. It's not a taking. We didn't take away any people's property. And when you look at the Constitution, it talks about taking people's property away from them and giving it either to the government or any other entity. That's a taking. We don't have takings in this county.
But Commissioner Castro, I also want to remind you that in 2010, whenever this ordinance was passed by the commission at the time, you were the commissioner at the time. Now, and there was no effort made in 2010, even though we had a charter. There was no effort made in 2010 to take the issue then out for the vote of the people.
And I'm glad, Mr. Chairman, that you brought up the issue of the charter again with Commissioner Thomas, understanding that this charter that we have in place right now is a compromised charter. It's a boilerplate charter for the most part, but that 30% that's in there was a compromise to even get that charter to move forward to get to the people to vote on.
Yes, sir, but you seconded the motion for that 30% and you voted for it.
Absolutely. I think, Mr. Chairman, that having a charter, even with that bad 30% in there, is better than not having a charter. It gives more opportunity for the citizens, and that's what a charter should do.
Yes, sir. And 30% of the registered voters in Wakulla County ended up being around 5,500. 10% of the registered voters in Leon County is like 18 or 20,000. So it's another play of words to say that we've got one of the toughest things, and in the state, you
It is one of
continually
the
using a
toughest.
play of words.
It's not a play of words, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect, when you're dealing with 30% of a population, it's 30% of a population, whether you're here with 18,000 registered voters or whether you're in Leon County, whatever number of registered voters they have. It's a percentage, okay?
Would it be easier to get 5,500 votes or 1,800?
It's the same.
Would it be
It's
easier?
harder in a rural county to get 30% of the vote than it is in a county like Leon County to get 10% of the vote or 30% of it. It's much easier in a county that has cities to get the needed petition signed.
Well-
Much easier. Rural counties to get petitions, it's much harder, and we got 3 times more than any other county in the state has.
And we proved that the process is doable and it works. Thank you.
May I
Mr.
have
Merritt?
one more comment on this subject before we move on? Question for the county attorney. Without regard to any specific piece of property, any circumstance or anything, I heard the comment that we do not have takings in this county. Do we have to physically occupy and possess a piece of property in order for a taking to occur?
No, regulatory takings are acknowledged by the courts as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt.
Let's let Jerry go first.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Now,
I would like to take issue with the person who talked about quite possibly Richard violating the ethics law. Richard is a very dear friend of mine. I had mixed blessings about him coming on the commission because I knew that I would basically lose my friend. Richard is so shy about even saying hello when we're out on the street or coming into a building or anywhere. I can hardly get him to say hello, much less engage into a conversation. So the idea that he may be in some sort of collusion or something is so bad. I'm not able to talk to him. Take your friend. How would you like not being able to talk to your friend? Anyway, when we talk about the environment, the redfish are back. It's very difficult to catch a redfish within the slot limit. Most of them are too large. Where I live, we see 4 or 5 eagles a day. We see dozens of osprey almost every day on the bay. At certain seasons of the year, the fiddler crabs, the space, about a 6-foot space between high and low water at certain seasons, the shoreline is yellow. It's absolutely yellow with fiddler crabs. We have bears. Last night we have hogs. We have hogs all over the county. But last night I caught 3 hogs. We have so many hogs we're having to trap them. I caught 3. They were also released, and I won't tell you how they were released, but they were released for all the people who doesn't like barbecue. But they were released. But our environment is doing great. It's wide open. It's wide open. So I'm really happy. I'd like to correct something else. I will give David Edwards the credit for receiving the call from the Forest Service and having the information available for me to put it on my agenda item. Basically speaking, that's a wonderful deal for our recreation. With 200 acres, we can go forward into the... We will all be gone by the time that rec department, that facility is built out. It will give our kids a place to recreate. It will have soccer, horseshoe, badminton, tennis, football, softball. It's 200 acres. It'll have walking trails, probably biking trails. So it will carry us into the future, and it will take care of your kids. And it's a project that we, the board, will embrace. And the next thing for the benefit of those folks who are not real happy about my position on the rec board or the rec whatever, I will push every switch I can to get more funding for the rec department so that we can more benefit our children, who are the most important part of our county. That's enough about that. I've asked Louis to get me the information of the new FEMA boundary, how many acres, and it's going to be hundreds of acres that the new FEMA boundary will pick up. You just don't know how that's going to affect your county, and especially if you live in that FEMA boundary. You are going to have difficulty selling your home, selling your piece of property. It's just going to happen. The buyers are going to ask, the first question they're going to ask is, do you live in a FEMA zone? Are you going to have to build, am I going to have to build my house on stilts? Am I going to have to pay a FEMA insurance? And when they ask that question, they are gone. They're going to find something they can find better. So it's a great difficulty for our county. It's sort of like a taking, because the government said you're going to have to do these things in order for whatever. So it's a taking. It's really a taking, and Uncle Sam doesn't have to pay for it. But anyway, just on a lighter note, the senior center is having a kayak tournament in April. Last year they had a very successful first year in their kayak tournament. This year they're expecting maybe 200 people to show up for a kayak tournament. And it's catch and release. You fish out of kayaks, and you can't drag them to a site with a motorboat. You got to paddle out there. But
Can you bring the fish out there with you, or you got to catch them?
you can't have frozen fish. You can't, and you can't tie them up before you get there. But anyway, it's in April. I just called the senior center. I'm sorry I don't know the date, but give them a call, because it's a great benefit. It brings people to our county from all over. So the Rock the Dock tournament brings many, many dollars into the Panacea waterfronts. As this gets going, and you see all these kayaks running up and down the road. There are more kayaks now coming into Wakulla than they are boats. Thank you for your time.
Is anything else?
Yes, I do.
I got my items.
Good. Want to give you another community center update. Told you last time that we've been talking to the 21st Century Learning Center. There's been several meetings, and TCC, Wakulla Christian School, Wakulla Springs Baptist Church all have full buy-in that they want to transfer the existing 21st Century Learning Center to our community center. The Coalition of Youth that is managing our community center, they have voted to start that process as well. And so we've got a verbal thumbs up. We still have to pin all that down and work out the details and ink that deal, but the goal is to transition that center at the end of the summer. That way those programs stay in place, and the start of next year we will be able to transition that into our community center. Also wanted to put in another plug for the grand opening this Friday night from 4 to 7 p.m. Everyone is invited to come see what's going on there. The gym is now open, beautiful, beautiful floor down, so just take a moment to stop by. And also the Wakulla Waterfronts exhibition next Thursday night, 6 to 8 p.m. There will be fresh seafood there from some of our restaurants and mobile providers. And so come hungry and go ahead and have a meal there, and just see the fruit of our fishing culture here, and see 45 photos will be showcased, and that's out of thousands and thousands that were taken. Also, last week we had a meeting with the Gulf Consortium. Just a quick update on that. The Treasury still has not published their final rules. We're waiting on that to come through. Also, we learned that the litigation is likely to be tied up through January of 2015. And so I don't think we're going to see anything until after that point, and then who knows when the money actually starts flowing. Last thing on my list, we heard a recommendation tonight that the charter review committee is considering the nonpartisan referendums. I just wanted to see if there's any interest in this board that maybe instead of that going through the charter process, if we think that that's viable and we want to get behind that, I'd be willing to bring back an item to that effect. And that way, we can move it forward, we can take the politics out of our local elections, and that would also give us the ability to craft that language and how we're proposing. Of course, it's all going to be subject to public input at our public meetings, but to start that process and have that conversation.
I don't know if anybody remembers this, but I actually brought the item up
I do.
before the board.
And I was against it.
Chris
Yeah.
remembers. It didn't
Yeah.
really get much traction.
I was against it at that
Yeah.
time. I've certainly seen a lot, or I let you bring it back. How about that? And I'll just step back.
Well, I mean, my personal opinion on it, it's a pretty major deal. You want just let the citizens decide whether they want to have nonpartisans or not.
Yeah.
If they do that, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Either it is like the school board is, or it's not like the school board is, and it's the way
Exactly.
it is today. I think if they're already moving forward, let's just let them roll with it.
The only reason I see value in doing it now is they may finish and have it on the 2014 ballot, or if they don't, then this may go to the 2016 ballot. This would allow us to go ahead and move it forward now, and we can ensure that it's going to be on the 2014 ballot.
As a referendum.
As a referendum. The citizens will decide. This board will not decide.
I
We're
thought
just,
you meant we decide.
we're going to just decide to move it forward and allow the citizens to vote on it and let them decide.
I could go along with that. I look forward to your agenda.
Do you want to bring it back, since you certainly brought it up the first?
I already did it one time. Huh? All
I mean-
right, I'll do it. I'll just pull out the old agenda items and put it back in. Did I have it as an agenda item or discussion item? I think I just discussed it.
Well, I mean,
I'll bring it back.
I'm giving a head nod that I'm certainly willing to look at.
Let me ask a question on the charter, if I may. When you folks formulate when you finish your charter review, that's basically what it is. You bring it to us, but we leave it alone. Is that not correct? We have no input on that. We have input, yeah. We have input, but what you decide is the rule.
Let me be clear right now. You have input now if y'all will show up. Let me just start with that. But yes, sir, you are correct that what comes out of there, what is proposed, will go to 2 public hearings, so it could be massaged a little further, but after that, what comes out is what will go to the citizens. So not thinking about what you're saying, I think you brought up 2 good points for y'all, that if you want to ensure the crafting of the language, then it's best for y'all to help craft it, and I think that is a very valid point. Given the subject matters ahead that the discussions we'll have, I don't know if this will be done in 2014 or 2016. So,
Hang tight a second, Chris, while I ask, if I could, Richard, about the charter review. Do we ever vote on it when, do we vote to take their recommendations and put them on the ballot?
They'll have to vote to put it on the ballot. They're the only ones.
no, they won't.
Just to put it on the ballot.
They do have to put them on the ballot for you.
Oh,
You
you'll
bring
have
it-
to
you
do
bring
that.
a-
Oh, I
they
see what you're
pass
saying.
a
I thought you were trying to vote
resolution
for
taking
my
the
apologies.
procedurally.
The reason I was asking that is if we never did vote on it, then we wouldn't be violating the Sunshine Law. We could all go to these meetings, since we'd never be discussing something we're going to vote on. But if we are going to vote on whether to put it on the ballot or not, we really can't all be there at one time. So it's hard for us.
You could be there. You
Be
just
there, you just can't engage in interaction. It's not a public meeting of the Board of County Commissioners.
So we can listen, we can't say anything, because
Well, you can say
it's a
stuff.
violation of the Sunshine Law if Howard knows my position on an issue.
No, it's not. It's a violation of the Sunshine Law if there's back and forth interaction among commissioners
Between me
on
and him.
issues. You can go out and give an interview to WCTV and give your position on an issue that's coming up, and if they hear it on the news, it's not a violation of the Sunshine Law. It's a violation of the Sunshine Law if you start to interact. The reason we advise you not to go to meetings that are not publicly advertised board meetings is because sometimes it's a little hard to remember that when you get up a heated issue, and pretty soon I've got commissioners interacting on issues.
What if
So
we
it's more of a
interacted via
prophylactic.
Chris Russell? I said, Chris, I like this idea. Ralph says, Chris, I hate that idea. That's a stupid idea. That's not interacting, because he...
Well, if I may, on just so you understand how we're doing our stuff, so there's no confusion, we start the meeting with citizens to be heard, 3 minutes, just like y'all. So I don't know if there's, I'm just saying, I just want you to understand how our meetings are. We would obviously welcome y'all to come forward. I totally get what you're saying, that if it's got to come through you, that could be, but
Safest
golly,
thing for us to do is not go, to be honest.
but you're still citizens.
Yeah, but
I mean, you shouldn't lose your right
But
to
Ms.
be a
Peck
citizen
explained we
just
could
because you're
also
elected.
I mean, we can always advertise the
Get
Charter Review Committee meetings and say that there may be more than one member of the Board of County Commissioners there. Minutes will be, I mean, we can, if you want to attend these meetings, we can make allotments for that in the way we advertise.
do you accept, like, exchanges with citizens that come to these meetings, or they have citizens to be heard, and then they can watch you have your meeting?
Let me say this, Commissioner Mayor, we are very fluid on making sure if there's a citizen that wants to have input. I think Dave Evers
That would
can...
just put us very precarious
Well,
position if we all went.
we could work around, you know, where y'all didn't feel nervous on it, but the way we start it is citizens to be heard, and then at the end of the meeting we do citizens to be heard. We call it gauging the temperature. If there's a subject that's really, you know, like the other night we had Dave there, and county attorney stuff, he knows that, but he respects the process, so he's speaking during citizens to be heard. But when we got done with that article, it was advantageous for the group to hear what David said. So we said, you know what, let's all call for it. Can we have citizens to be heard on this subject? And we did it.
Can I call members of the Charter Review Committee and give them my 2 cents? And say, hey, I think you should support partisan, or whatever, or non-single member districts. I think you should pursue that. That's not violating any laws, right?
You guys are free to have opinions on these issues. It's a legislative issue that, I mean, when it comes back to you, it's pretty much a procedural vote, but your citizens, you're free to have input on these issues.
Couldn't we even go as far as, if it's single-member district, I stand up and say, I'm for that. He stands up and say, I'm against that. One-way communication, we haven't dialogue back and forth.
I mean, it gets to be
You
more
start
gray
explaining
there.
yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's why
I wouldn't go there.
if we know, if you guys want to attend the meetings, we can take care of it in the advertising, and then there's not going to be an issue for anyone in the future, because it's going to be an issue for you if you cross that line. And that line isn't as clear. You know, it's a line that is in statute, but it's going to be drawn ultimately by a court on the individual factual circumstances, and I'd like you to avoid that if you could.
Right. Well,
And let me, while you brought that up, if you may, while I'm still here, I did have the luxury of seeing most of the constitutional officers at the Low Country Bowl, and they all were in favor of it as well. So
I had a good idea. Is that what you're trying to say?
you had a great idea.
Thank you.
Who put that in your ear? No, you weren't. So anyway, any other questions? We're good. You brought up 2 good points that you could help craft the language if you were doing it, and this may not go forward now, but obviously the temperature of that whole committee is to make it go forward.
Any other discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
2 items. Number 1, I've been asked by my neighbors up on New Light Church Road. We all know where that's at, right? Crossville going north. It's a passing zone right there on 319. There's C.J. Spears coming out. There's a New Light Church, which is a major east-west, I think it's a major collector road. And the issue is people coming out, wanting to turn right. You know, a lot of people look left, others no cars coming, they'll pull on out, and all of a sudden there's a car. And it is requested that we ask DOT to do a study or whatever to look at at least making that a no passing zone. A turn lane would be ideal, but that's probably not going to happen. At least double line it in the vicinity of that intersection just to make it safer and make it a no passing zone.
I'd support that.
We'll just get a head nod. I promised my friend, I hope he's watching. I know he's not. He's probably asleep by now, but anyway. Next item, just so the people at home don't think we're insane. Every vote we had tonight was a 5-0 vote except for the wetlands. So hopefully when we get this behind us, whichever way we get it behind us, we can move on to the next most divisive issue. And at least we agree on most everything. So we're probably not all as evil as we think we are. That's it.
We have a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn. Second.
All right.
Maybe impose on you again.
All right, what you got?